Finance Committee meeting for May 19, 2025. Councilor Smith.
Here.
Waltney. Here. Alamont.
Here.
Brandt. Here. And Harden.
Okay, four, and we have a quorum. Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading and approve the minutes as presented from our finance meeting on May 5th?
I'll make the motion.
Second. Motion from Mr. Brandt, second from Mr. Waltney. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
4-0, those are approved. Okay, we're going to start this marathon off by me turning over the meeting to Mr. Waltney to take item 440425 out of order from old business so that we can discuss that, and then Andy can turn the meeting back over to me to continue the rest of our agenda. So Andy, all yours.
Thank you. All right, 440425, request for consultation for Creekside infrastructure development coming from the mayor. So, Mr. Mayor, I hear we have some updates we want to cover tonight.
Yeah, the Sanford Land folks are here. I know we've got the larger discussion at 5 o'clock.
Yep.
But I did want to give them the chance. They have given us some additional information regarding the tax abatements, tax abatement proposal that they've made. And so I did want the council to get a chance to hear that, so that you would have that, and then it can wait and be discussed at 5 o'clock with everything else, but wanted to give them that opportunity.
Okay. You want to present, or you would? Okay. Up and give us your name, and you can skip the address.
All right,
Just for those in the room that may not know who you are. Thank you all for being here.
Bob Dunn, Unmarked Development. We'll keep the slides to a minimum this evening. Quick update on a number of fronts, and then I'm going to ask Lynette to walk through the work that's been done in the development agreement that's been drafted. We had a draft last time we were here. Some additional work has been done to just close out some of the issues that remained open at the last meeting. So just overall, just to kind of recap quickly, our community investment program as we have proposed it to you. Just a couple of things quick that we want to highlight. The CIP, we really do try and underscore this when we can. We do view differently than traditional forms of tax incentive that go into single projects. The reason we try and differentiate it is because the structure that we're proposing here really is to support the overall infrastructure build. Anytime you have a mixed-use development, multi-phase, it requires an infrastructure build, whereas a single project that has a tax incentive, those dollars tend to rebate back to strengthen the financial performance of that individual project. Not the case here. So we're just trying to keep us current with that. To us is kind of a key differentiator in terms of how we propose this and why we're proposing the structure that we are. A lot of work has been done, as you know, and we've shared with you on the importance of this type of economic development around civic anchored projects. This is what we do, so probably have a bias, but I think without question there's just example after example where this kind of fiscal impact, which the numbers are big, but they're big largely because of the nature of this development versus how cities oftentimes grow at the periphery, where it just becomes the weight of the investment, the infrastructure, really tends to diminish the fiscal gain. Here it's truly infill, anchored by Sanford, who has to make a big investment over time in the entire campus environment, and those are the things that drive fiscal impact in these models. And I'm sure I said it the last time, I'll say it again. When we saw the numbers coming together, to us they were impressive, but that always draws out questions, and so we completed the analysis, and then we did it all over again. Started with AECOM, then went to PFM, who are, without question, if not the two most notable firms that do this type of work. They're certainly among them the most notable. We spent a lot of time, and I'm going to turn a question back to this group probably at some point this evening, but we spent a lot of time trying to help frame why we think there's real community benefit that can come from the CIP, meaning drive real growth in tax base. We've heard comments that, Homewood doesn't need the tax base, and part of what we focused on is, is just the realities of schools, because if you recall from the structure that we've proposed, we've held any rebate outside of what the school district will realize. And this generates a significant amount of tax-based support for schools. And over a period of time, just looking at some of the studies that have recently been done, you know, the cost of anything today is just massive, and schools are obviously a big part of what makes quality of life in Homewood what it is. And so we're looking for ways, and would take any advice you can give us on how do we best frame the idea behind the CIP as really being a driver of strengthening the ability to support quality schools, quality education over time, because to us that's really what rises to the surface. Last couple of points, again, want to stress this, under the CIP, the way it's structured, the way the contract is written, Lynette can get into this in more detail if necessary, but there can only be fiscal gain to the city. There cannot be any fiscal decline to the city. The tax dollars, certainly you could argue could be less, could also argue the tax dollars could be more. But the way we've structured this, the burden of economic risk falls on the private sector. We have to capitalize the infrastructure investment. We're banking on those forecasts. You know, we're the ones really underwriting that forecasted stream of revenues. If we're wrong, and we're wrong on the downslope, that risk, that burden only falls on us. Again, I think an important distinction in how we've looked to structure this. So that's just kind of a little bit of a recap of how we've tried to structure the CIP. It sort of draws out the question. You know, we talk about this a lot in various meetings that we're having. We've got meetings pretty much this whole week with different groups. The question's always put to us, how can this project really strengthen quality of life in Homewood? And I think this is the best way that we have been able to frame what it really means for Homewood. Strengthening quality of education at all levels, K-12 on up to higher education level. You know, we get asked a lot, isn't this is just helpful to Sanford? It absolutely is important and helpful to Sanford. But it's also designed, just by nature of everything we're trying to do here, to drive real community benefit. You know, we think it's probably more equally weighted than not. So education is a big part of it. Defining civic assets, we think, is also a fundamentally important part of what we're driving toward here. Again, what we mean by that is things like building the bridge over Lakeshore Drive to, you know, promote safety, security in the neighborhoods, creating the type of community environment that these cities are all known for. Another time we'll share with you a study that we found from the past related to the development of, you know, of this type of district in one of your neighboring communities, where at the onset, you know, the outcry was all negative. Whereas today, if you were to look at, I think, any of these districts that have developed, they really are the elements that define not just Homewood, but the surrounding communities. Environmental stewardship, at 5, we're going to share with you some of the work that's being done from a stewardship standpoint. As you know, we pulled back on Creekside East, but we haven't stopped evolving and thinking about how this can really become a way to heighten awareness, create better access, and really build a platform to educate people about not just the importance of the watershed, but also ways to truly improve the watershed and develop in harmony with the watershed. And then just lastly, again, the point of fiscal impact. The numbers are big. I mean, we're not shying away from that. We got a set of numbers. We went out and verified them again, and we got, you know, in most respects, we got the same results back. We think that's a real positive, and hopefully that, when ultimately this gets judged, hopefully that will rise to the surface. So that's just a little bit of a recap of kind of how we're trying to build the case here. Complicated issues for sure. It's a big plan. It's a big program. But we also have to keep in perspective, one of the questions we get, we'll talk about at 5, is, it's so big, is it too big for Homewood? And all I would ask you to just keep in mind is, this really is Homewood's first trip down the path of applying your new zoning code for mixed-use districts. Just by its nature.
Hey, Bob, can we keep the conversation about the incentives or the
Sure.
CIP tonight, because the zoning is gonna come later?
Fair enough.
And we have a really long agenda, so.
So I will defer now to my associate,
awesome.
Lynette. I'll let Lynette walk through just the mechanics of the structure that's in the agreement.
Thank you.
Thank you, counselors. Lynette Crandall with the Landmark Development Team. So any arrangement such as this would require a definitive agreement with the city, and so we have been working on that development agreement, filling in all of the blanks, providing some of the minimum capital investments, some of the caps on certain of the project components, some of the minimums, number of hotel units, you'll find that, hotel keys, you'll find all of that in the development agreement. This is really pretty comparable to what we do on other development projects across the country, other economic development initiatives. What's unique here and common to many of our projects is that we are willing to come in and take the risk again to put the infrastructure in place, rather than certain developments where a community may try to entice or incent development by putting that infrastructure in place and bearing that cost. As Bob had indicated, we will design it, we will build it, we will finance it on the private side. And then this agreement, to the extent that we meet those requirements, will enable us to enter into this rebate structure. Again, that would exclude any of the tax base that would be, or any of the taxes that would be going to the city schools. So today, the infrastructure estimate that we have for the project that we'll be talking about later in the Planning and Development Committee, it's $104 million. We will shoulder the burden of paying for that as well, over and above the rebate. So what the agreement will allow us to do is capture the Creekside West lodging tax for up to 20 years. That's a cap and not a guarantee. The sales tax for 20 years and the property tax, again, excluding the Homewood City Schools, for 20 years. If the project develops more quickly, if the tax bill is higher than we expect, that would actually lower our cost of financing and lower the rebate payments to us as the developer as well. So you'll see that we have a financing structure of $26 million that's included in the agreement. Again, when that is hit, that would be the termination of the agreement. That's based on a discounted value over 20 years. It allows us to compare apples to apples, that $26 million tied to the current cost of $104 million of infrastructure today. And that's about 16% of the total fiscal impact to the city of Homewood and Homewood City Schools. That's not accounting for what goes to schools countywide, to the county or to the state. So again, it's our responsibility to be able to take this development agreement, a note from the city, and figure out how to finance that in the private capital markets. We've been having some of those discussions with lenders, and we're confident that we could move forward and execute quickly with the development agreement in place.
Okay, you good? All right, so
Didn't want to interrupt you.
I was going to say, we'll open it up for discussion amongst the committee and council, and then carry this item over without objection for further discussion in the Planning and Development Committee with the other items.
Yeah, and just to be clear, even if this becomes agreeable, Mr. Kendrick still has, the document still has to be finished, finalized.
Yes.
I think there are some things that we'll have to change about that, in addition to, separate from the, whether the council thinks that this is a good idea or not.
So just to recap, it's 26 million that they're the ask for 20 years. So What questions does the committee have, or the council?
Got a lot.
And they're gonna talk,
Yeah.
they're gonna talk about more fully in that.
All right, well, if there are no questions at this time, we'll move to carry this item over, and I'll hand the baton back to Councilor Smith.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, next old business agenda item is 020225, request permission to provide an update on Kenilworth Stormwater Project. Mr. Smith, I know we have had some issues.
Yeah, we have. So we had 2 inches of rain in about an hour yesterday, which is on the chart about a 5 to 10 year event for intensity. And so yesterday John Wood's house flooded. The erosion control BMPs and structural BMPs we had in place basically failed. Yeah. So the sod floated away. He got water under his house. I was over there at 7:45, but John wasn't. He had already left to go to his job at Dawson. And then yesterday afternoon, Glenn and David, the contractor, met them at 1 o'clock. Figured out how to fix the immediate problem, and then we just had another meeting today at 1 o'clock to figure out how to get to the finish line. So we have solutions in place. There will probably be a change order once we get to the end, but we knew that there would be a potential change order because of the way that the unit prices have worked out so far. So we've talked about that before. So just know that all those things are happening and probably coming.
All right, thank you, Mr. Smith.
Which address was it that had the issues?
433 Hillwood?
I think it's the one right at the bottom. Is you right?
It's,
kinda?
yeah, it's the
Yeah.
one whose whole yard has been exposed.
Yeah, yeah.
That, I ran by there today, I was curious. I
Yeah.
was trying to look down the hill and see.
I have videos I can show you if you'd
Yeah.
like to.
Yeah.
It wasn't good.
Yeah.
It was not good. All right, so with that, we'll carry this one over and continue to monitor and deal with this as the project moves along. 020425, request for consideration of a mid-year budget review. Mr. There you are.
Yeah.
Sorry, whenever you are.
Yeah, I know that I had talked last time about the fiscal policy that we have in place, and I know we're doing a lot of work within that fiscal policy, but my recommendation to finance would be to go ahead and accept the report. Mr.
It was
Adams
given.
had already presented really good news. I think we're in great shape. We're gonna continue to work on the fiscal policy, and I think more good news will be to come, but I'd recommend to go ahead and accept it. We need to accept it during this month, and so
Okay.
I would, that'd be my recommendation, and more information will be coming.
Yeah, and that was the report that Mr. Adams gave us on the 5th that included up through the end of February. Yes, and so we have that information and we will complete the testing as per our fiscal policy, but want to go ahead and get this off the agenda.
I would make a motion to accept the review.
Okay,
Second.
motion for Mr. Gwaltney, second for Mr. Brandt. Any questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all right, that's 4-0. That we accept that report. Okay, 260425 is request for consideration of the BMS audit brief coming to us from Mr. Adams. That is going to happen on June 2nd, so we will carry this item over without any objection to the meeting on June 2nd. All right, moving to our new business agenda, and I'm going to, once again, jump around. We're going to go to 070525. We have 3 businesses who are requesting business license penalty waivers coming to us from Mr. Segrist, and I'm going to have to dig through my paperwork to figure out where those are. Number 7. Yeah, oh, there we go. Okay. So, and I believe we have at least one business representative. All right. And you're from below. Where is it? Sorry. Yeah, I'm going there. I can't get there fast enough. Okay, Afshin? Okay, come on up. If you don't mind giving us your name and your address for the record, and then give us a...
Sign right here for me, please.
And just so the committee knows, the 3 businesses who are asking for waivers were penalized for late payment on their business licenses, and they have coming to us with their extenuating circumstances to possibly get those waived.
Hey, thanks for allowing me the opportunity to come in front of you. My reason for not being able to keep up with the business license was, and I still am actually, got really sick post-COVID. I'm a COVID long hauler. And I was in rehab for 3 years. You can look me up on WBRC and all those interviews those people took of me. I still have trouble. Somehow that license that was hanging there, and we were closed for a bit, but the license, I wasn't here, my team was running, got slipped, got missed, until I heard from the council, and I don't mind paying the fee for the license that I'm obligated to, but they put penalty on late fee, which is what I am requesting to be waived off due to my medical condition, due to which I couldn't be at work. But going forward, I can make sure that is diligently. At that time, I didn't even have a manager because of COVID and all the issues that we ran into with staffing and everything. So it just was something that got missed. But I can keep up with it going forward from now. But
And have they satisfied, they've paid for the business license for now? So we're,
No, to my, 2025, we can't issue a business license
until this is rectified,
Right.
okay.
that's what we were trying to resolve.
Okay, so we have to get this resolved and decide on the penalty, then she can pay 2024, and then she'll need to pay 2025.
Yeah, I think.
Okay, and I can't, I found the other one that said what the penalty was. What's the penalty? Sorry, can you tell me?
So, yeah, they actually owe for the year of 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 24, and 25.
Okay, so, and we can't do 25 until we get all this other stuff resolved. What are the penalties?
Penalties in total were $862.11.
So $862.11.
Yeah, and the interest is $1,028.21.
And the interest is on, okay.
What's the annual fee? I guess it depends on profitability.
Yeah, it depends on, yeah.
Are you prepared to pay the fees for this year's?
Yes.
How much is each year?
I've got.
It varies.
Yeah, it does. So I've got,
What's the percentage of, we have a?
for 2019, wait, is 2019 paid for? No, everything on this list. So 2019 was 743.17, 2020 was 493.07, 2021, and this is the license cost, not the penalties, was 676.29, 2022 was 742.87, and 2023 was 884.97. I don't have 2024 on here. I would tell you somewhere in the $600 to $750 range tends to be about what it is. So, so we've got those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 2020. So 6 years worth of licenses, and then the penalties are separate from that, and then there's also interest.
I have a question.
Yes.
I understand the fees, right?
Yeah.
In those levels, and then there's 862 in interest, and the interest is an additional $1,000?
No.
Or it's $300
The penalties are $862.11, and then the interest is $1,028.21. So that's separate from those amounts that I just read you.
Yeah, but the interest is,
More than the penalties.
The interest is more than the yes, the interest is more than the penalties. I don't know how that
Gets calculated.
system works.
It carries over, like it's basically, the interest grows over the time period that it's
but my
delinquent.
question is, it's 862 plus 1,000?
Yes.
Yeah, that's my question.
Yes.
That's all I'm asking.
Penalties plus interest.
Yeah, that's one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And also the question is, because we've never had this come before us before, that I can remember, are we allowed to waive the interest, or can we just waive the penalties?
Penalties.
So the interest is not, we can't do anything with that,
It's
that's,
penalties.
yes, it's just the penalties.
And there's 2 other businesses on the same boat,
Yes.
and it's about the same time period?
No.
Mm-mm.
No, the other one is just 1 year, and then the other one is
1 year.
1 year.
Well, my question is if the interest is due to penalties, so if I'm requesting waiving of the penalty, the interest comes along with it. Obviously I was unaware of.
I don't think that's not the way it works, because that's the bank. I don't think we can't do anything about the
The interest.
interest.
interest is coming off your annual, business license fee. And obviously, it's almost 6 years, so that 2019 is gonna be higher than anything else. And look, I'm a business owner too, I understand. Do you not have to file a license for your business, like the state of Alabama or something like that?
Do I what?
Do you have to have a license
Yes.
through the state of Alabama?
Yes.
So you knew you had to do that, but you knew
Well,
you didn't
that-
have to pay the
well,
business
that's what I'm
license?
No, it's not that I didn't know. It's just that because I wasn't physically present here,
Okay.
somehow during that time, it fell through the cracks, and I didn't have people noticing that. I got notified by City of Homewood about around this time last year, and I've been emailing back and forth for a hearing like this for a few months now, so it just fell through the cracks.
Well, I'm all for giving grace. Again, my wife uses your services, so
Appreciate
I
it.
better make her happy, but, I mean, you know you're gonna have to pay back your fees, right?
Absolutely.
And there's
And
no way,
I was
and
wanting
you're
to
gonna have to
do
pay
that.
the interest, because that's in the statutes.
Yeah, we
Penalties
can't.
about the only thing that
We can waive.
we can waive, which is about $800.
It's
And it's,
$862.
again, I don't know if it's ever come before, but we gotta watch setting a precedent. I empathize with your health issues. I'm willing,
Thank you, I appreciate it.
personally give it, I'll give that some credence, but,
I
that's me.
appreciate it.
Ms. Smith, one quick question.
Yes.
For Mr. Seegers. What, do y'all have, I know you are diligent about pursuing business licenses and making sure everybody's up to date. Do y'all have a notification process, for people? or-
Oh, absolutely.
So how does that work? Can you detail that for us?
Every year, we send out notices, in December, and then, you have until, the businesses don't become delinquent until March. And then after March 1st, we send out a delinquent notice to everyone that has not come in and paid, and those are sent out every year.
Okay. And
And
once
then,
they're delinquent?
then once they're delinquent, then, we try to reach out through either going by, boots on the ground, or through email, phone call, or letter.
I was about to say, because I know Julie and they both go out and
Yes.
literally show up at people's businesses and tell them
Yeah.
that.
I guess my only question is just out of due diligence, that we're 100% certain that we couldn't do anything about the interest. And so if there's a way to verify.
That'd have to be
Check
through
with
his.
the League of Municipalities.
You see what I'm saying?
I mean, because that's not our money. That's,
I understand. Well, yeah, and I'm just asking as, so.
yeah. And I mean, honestly, after 6 years.
Yeah, that's what I have a hard time with.
I'm having a little bit of a issue with the length of time that we're talking about too. But I feel like the interest money that's not money that's due to us, that's somebody else's money, I don't know.
Well, I don't know
How much interest is it?
It is $1,028.
Per year.
Oh,
Is there a
One-
percentage?
It's 1% every month
Yeah.
of delinquency.
so like for your 2020, it is 407.83, obviously, because that's the longest away. 2021 is 211.37. 2022 is 208.70. It goes down every year. 2023 is 140.04, and 2024 is 60.27. Yeah.
And the penalties are 30%. It caps at 30.
Okay.
And then each month is 1% interest, and for however many months, that's the rate.
Yeah.
However.
So that interest money does not come to us?
Yeah, the interest money, it all
Comes
comes
to-
to.
So it is our money also?
Okay.
Yes,
I just wanted to clarify.
It's all our money.
right.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why I wanted to, like, not
Yeah.
issue any kind of statements that it's not
Yeah,
our
yeah,
money.
yeah, yeah.
It would make no sense.
Well, and then, okay, so let's ask Mike that.
Well, it's all our money, this is business license for us.
Right, but so the question is, can the interest be waived, like the fees can be waived, or does the interest need to not be waived?
That's the old call.
Okay.
So that's the clarification.
Yeah,
I'm asking
yeah,
for. So
yeah.
Whether we decide to do that or not.
Right,
I
just
think that we
knowing what
have
it
the
is.
discretion
Right.
to choose to do that or not.
Or not, or choose to do one and not the other, or whatever
And
thing.
is this case by case, or are we setting a precedent here, Mike?
The precedent's been we've never done it.
But that's what I'm saying, so
I was
if
about to say, I've never had this happen.
so if
since
we
I've been on.
go this way, we're open the door for every business.
So
to-
what I'm uncomfortable with is waiving the penalty and not the interest fees, because the interest fees are based on the penalties.
On the penalties, yeah.
So if we're gonna waive the penalties, we should waive interest fees. Now, we can say we're gonna waive half the penalties and then half the interest fees, whatever we wanna do. But I think they're locked together.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm kind of with Jody in the fact that, I mean, this has never happened since I've been on council, and now we have 3, which I think is kind of unusual. You know,
And I do think, that, to your point, we should take them on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
no,
but
true.
virtually, you're here asking and admitting that. that's-
And willing to pay on the other
you're-
ones.
That means the world.
I mean, I think, like, there's another one here, and it's a year, and literally, there's a reason they switch systems and ownership, and it makes sense. I don't know.
I mean, I think
6 years is a lot of time.
But 6 years in relation to COVID.
Well,
And
yeah, yeah.
In 2019 would have been the year, she would have paid that in 2020, and so that,
And it's
it's
5
all
years.
connected to.
Yeah, yeah, it
to
is. Well, it's 2020, yeah, so 2020, yeah, we're up to 2021, yeah, 5 years until, and we haven't gotten to 25 yet.
Correct.
So it'll be this is the 6th year.
Yeah,
And part, yes, part of that is COVID, but then.
and she's providing a mea
yeah.
culpa. I mean,
Yeah.
I know that we don't want to necessarily set
Yeah.
a long-term precedent, but I would be open to the idea of forgiving the penalties, and as long as everything else in terms of the fees get paid, with an understanding that there will be no grace if this occurs again.
Is that a motion?
That is my motion.
I'll second.
All right, have a motion for Mr. Allen to.
Since we're in discussion.
Sure,
Yes.
of course.
Before the votes. What's the time frame that has to be paid within? Can we define that?
Yes, I like that. I agree.
I would recommend 30 days.
30 days with
I
paid
could
within.
do it tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
But let's say,
Or on
We'll say 30 days.
we'll take 30 days.
Just in case.
Well,
something
there's nobody
happens.
over there now.
I don't mind.
They're
paying,
gone.
but I owe.
Okay. Just to
Okay.
define it.
All right, so
To
the
forgive-
motion
to
is
forgive
to
penalties and
forgive
interest fees.
penalties and interest, to be paid within 30, and for the
And for-
rest of the balance of the fees to be paid within 30 days.
Yes.
Okay. All right, I have a motion from Mr. Alaman and a second from
Second
Mr.
the
Brandt.
motion.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, that's 3. Those against, nay, that's me. All right, 3-1, that passes. All right.
So that number.
And then there's 2 more, huh?
1890-32. Is that what you're waiting?
Yes, 1896-32, I think that's a 6. 1890, no, you're right, it's 1890-32.
I really appreciate you coming and.
I really
coming.
Yeah, I
appreciate
mean, yeah, asking,
for
that's.
Understanding
Yeah,
the
you-
situation,
yeah,
it's
owning
not
up
gonna
to it.
happen, I'm a taxpayer.
I know it's not easy to come in here.
Yes, we appreciate
This
you
is,
appreciate
this
it.
was
coming in.
just a miss on
No,
my
you're
end
fine.
to help them.
Enough said.
It
You're
did
good.
not happen again.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
I really appreciate you guys.
All right, so the next is Constantine International Foods. And this is for 1 year. And in her letter, it says, I'm writing to request penalty for the 2025, and this is for this is for this year's business license. They changed ownership in 2024, and somehow the transition from the old ownership to the new ownership did not go, and that penalty is, wow, why is this one so big? Oh, because it's based on what their license is. The penalty is $2,689.28.
Wait a minute, I don't think that's wrong, I think that's.
Oh, no, that's the wrong one. That is the wrong one. That's the wrong one. Sorry. $427.89, sorry. I oversold that. Oh, you're here. Okay, you're Amy? Okay, hi. Okay, Amy, and is this Najee Cedar Gourmet? Okay, all right, give us your story. There we go.
Yes, I'm here. This is my first time to do anything like this, but.
Oh, can we get your name and your
Yeah.
address for the record? I'm sorry, I should have said that up front.
There for me, please.
He'll fill in the item number.
Yeah,
I got
don't
it.
worry
I
about
got all
that,
that.
yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Do not worry about that. Okay. Now,
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me today. We were late on our business license this year as we changed ownership. I came with the new ownership, and honestly, I did not get the original notice that would have come out in 2024. I don't know if like the mail shuffling between the old owner and the new owner or whatnot. But since then, and we also did a software conversion at the end of the year, so I was not thinking about a business license at all. Since then, I've paid my license fee. I am asking that the penalties and or interest be considered waived.
And there's no interest on yours because it hasn't been long enough. Yeah, it's just the penalty of $427.89.
Out of curiosity, what's the business?
Oh, it's Najee's Pita Gourmet, except they operate as Constantine International Food, but it's the Najee's Pita Gourmet over on West Side.
That, obviously, those are all valid reasons. We're dealing with that in the city as well. So yes, I want to make the motion to forgive the penalty in this
Second.
situation.
All right, I have a motion, well, she's already paid the fee, so it doesn't matter. All right, so I have a motion from Mr. Brandt.
Within
second
30 days.
Well,
I'll
yeah,
do
but
it tomorrow.
she's already paid it.
Oh, you paid it.
Yeah, she's already paid it.
All
She's
right.
just trying to get the penalty from me.
Gotcha.
Okay, so motion from Mr. Brandt to forgive and second from Mr. Almond. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, 4-0, that passes. And we're good.
We're good?
Yes,
Thank you
you're
so
good.
much. I knew it would be easier to talk to y'all than the owner.
All right, and then finally, we have Rebizon's, and this is the one whose penalty is $2,689.28. It does not say this, or does it say this in the?
This is why I say, I don't know what
I'm not, well, I don't want to read all this out, but
Yeah.
I can show it to anybody who wants to see it. Anyway, so, and I believe Mr. Segrist told me that they were late last year as well.
Yes, and so this, this taxpayer, they have been late.
This is a repeat offense.
Yes, this is a repeat offense, and it was told me that they had the young lady that did their office had
Accounting.
passed away. They did the accounting for them and passed away. There was, they approached us and told us this last year, and that because of, anytime there's someone deceased or catastrophic, instance, we just, we'll waive the penalty. Well, this year, it was conveyed again to us that this was the reason why, that it was because of that transpired previously. And so they're saying that it's still because of that person passing away that they were late.
Do we have a death date?
Well, I mean,
Not to be.
it does, I mean,
morbid,
I will
but-
say this, the letter says, it says something about a son passing away, that the office manager's son passed away 2 years ago, and that's what the struggle was, I'm not sure. It doesn't sound like it was an employee, it sounds like it was
okay.
a employee's child.
Okay, so the person who runs the office is impacted.
Yes, but let me just say,
Division
that
day.
they're within walking distance of the city.
And they,
Well, I would say they didn't show up today to ask for this.
But they
where
did
the
show
other-
up to get their signs approved.
Where the other people did, so that's a no for me.
Okay, well, we have to have a motion in the positive.
Okay.
well, and wish they were here. We've got
Yeah,
some-
oh,
They're
if they
causing some
cared
other
about it, they'd
issues in
be
the
here.
city that need to be addressed. They're parking on Central Avenue 4 cars wide, and they need to be keeping them on their property. So, none of this not related.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not
yeah,
big,
yeah, I know
but
what you're saying.
I'd love to
I
come
do
here and
think though,
discuss it.
to Councilor Brandt's point, that they're not here makes a difference for me, because then we can't hear a full articulation as to what the issue is.
Right.
Considering that this is an offense 2 years in a row,
Mm-hmm.
I'm less inclined to be willing to waive the fees, so I'd like to make a motion to waive the fees, but let me go back.
Okay.
I'm making a motion in the positive.
Okay, motion in the positive to waive the fees, and that is from Mr. Almond.
Second.
Second from Mr. Gwaltney. All in favor, please say aye.
So-
All opposed to say nay.
Nay.
All right, so that is 0-4 to not waive those fees. All right, and moving on.
Thank
All
you.
right, sorry, yeah, thank y'all for working through that. All right,
You guys show up.
going back up to the top of the new business agenda, okay. 010525, request to schedule a bid date for the Homewood Library Interior Finishes Phase 3, Cale Smith, Judith Wright. We are setting a bid date of June 10th, I understand, Mr. Smith?
That's right, thank you.
And those,
3:00.
so yeah, so at 3, the bids will be due at 3 o'clock, we'll open them at 3:01, and this is for that additional interior work, that they are having done. So can I get a motion to set that bid date for 6/10?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion for Mr. Allemont, second for Mr. Gwaltney. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. 4-0 to set that for June 10th at 3 p.m. All right, 020525, request to authorize the city manager to sign a contract to replace a pool liner due to the creek wall failure at 711 Broadway. Mr. Smith, this is what, $5,100?
That's correct.
To go into, and this is, we're moving this money into small infrastructure, $5,100, and this is a result of the things that we've been dealing with over the last week for that creek wall failure.
So the side of the pool collapsed as well?
So when the wall failed, and all the dirt behind the wall failed, it exposed one side of the pool when they were worried about the pool sliding into the creek. So they pumped out the water in the pool and the liner came up.
Ah. Who
So-
pumped the water out?
It was a collective decision made by the contractor and the homeowner. I think it was probably the right decision.
Okay.
All right, so, and just for point of fact, the labor for this is $2,650 and the liner and materials are $2,450 for a total of $5,100.
And we did get 2 quotes on this, and the other one was $7,500-ish, so this
Okay,
one is.
this is less. All right. Do I have a motion or any questions?
I make a motion for approval.
All right, motion to approve for Mr. Gwaltney.
I will second.
Second for Mr. Allemont. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. 4-0. That is approved. Huh? It was, yes, it was Gwaltney, Allemont, yes. Okay, 030525, request for consideration of a budget for line item transfers from Mr. Smith and Mr. Adams. And this is in relation to the same, what, isn't this the same thing? Oh, no. This is for the Lee Center.
The Lee Center.
To cover the, survey.
Cost of the survey. So the total cost of the survey was using rough numbers, $7,020. And then the boundary survey part of that, which we've already gotten, is $5,400.
Yeah.
And since it was an emergency, Glenn went ahead and paid for it out of other expenses.
Right.
So now this is to move the money into his account.
And just so we know, because it said part of this was when we received the check for the purchase from
Which we just
the
got
homeowner, which
today.
we got today. So we did receive that check today to Mr. Segrist, and so we'll move that money back into the city manager's.
A portion of
A
that
portion
money
of that
back
money,
into
yes.
engineering services so
Yes.
we can finish.
Yes, exactly. That is it. So do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for Mr. Brandt and a second for Mr. Gwaltney. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay. Okay, 040525, request permission to authorize city manager to sign a contract with EDT Inc. for survey services at the same address, 1833 29th Avenue South, which is actually the old police department. All right, so,
So they have started working, doing the survey on that, and so the contract is for $10,020. That is for topo and boundary, $7,520 for topo and boundary, and then $2,500 for the record map, which will eventually come when we divide the property.
yeah.
Mr. Moran brought an escrow check up here for $25,000, and so this will be paid for out of that escrow account that's being set up.
Okay, so we just need to sign, we have to move to sign the contract.
That's right.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
All right. That is also Mr. Brandt and also Mr. Gwaltney with the second. And all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 4-0, that is passed. 050525, request for consideration of budget amendments for fiscal year 24-25 from Mr. Adams, our city manager. You want to speak to this, Mr. Adams?
Yes, this is really a housekeeping issue. Trying to make sure that the money that we budgeted through previous actions is appropriately located in the budget. And so it's moving finances around. Mind you, you've already discussed $169,846, and that will be included in this total also. So it's really line item cleanup into the budget so that we're no longer having accounting in the wrong location. It's paperwork, making sure it's all in the right location where it should be for the budget.
And this is for auditing services.
Yeah.
Sure, but we're not actually requesting more money at this point that we've already
We're-
approved.
No, this is because this is how much money you've already authorized.
and we're just making sure it's in the
It's
right.
just in the wrong location.
Okay, all right, I have a motion for Mr. Almond.
Second.
And a second for Mr. Gwaltney. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
4-0, that is passed. And 060525, request for consideration of a mid-year budget increase for the Homewood Environmental Commission coming to us from Council Wolverton. This is a $2,000 increase based on some trees.
But yes, so at the
Additional
beginning of the
trees.
budget cycle was when their Love Your Trees Day occurred. They had a huge request. They decided to go ahead and allocate some additional funding that they had originally budgeted for later in the year to try and compensate the demand. And so they are primarily trying to get some additional funds to purchase some reusable bags that they've continued to distribute at different booths throughout the city and events throughout the city.
What was the original amount that we already budgeted?
They were at 12, which, so they asked for a request last year, they got level funding.
Yeah.
But
as
they asked
did-
for level funding, or did
No,
they
no, I
asked
think
for
they
an
requested for
increase.
an increase and they got level funding, I think.
I thought-
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's
and
what
so
it was.
they're just requesting an additional $2,000 to try and help
And this
purchase
would
some additional
come,
bags.
this would come out of just the general fund where all of these appropriations come from and go into the Homewood Environmental
If I
Commission's
could
line.
speak to this one, it's really a supply and demand thing. The tree thing is taken up more and they have to allocate more money for the trees to allow the amount of demand for the trees. And they've also, there's a big demand for the bags. And so that's what they're trying to do, is cover down the awareness and cover down the trees. And I sat in on the meeting, I didn't have a necessary issue. He asked if it should come to this panel, and I said definitely. I think it's worthwhile.
So they have spent the money already, or they have not?
I think they've already spent the money, but.
Correct, they spent additional funds, roughly $2,000 on additional trees earlier in the
Still in
budget
budget.
cycle.
Within their budget.
Within their
yes.
budget, yes,
This
yes.
is
I'd say operate within the budget.
Yeah.
But I think this is so that they can,
augment the bags that they currently have.
Yeah.
Because they bought more trees, and you have to front load the trees.
so that's
It was like within, I think, 3 weeks of the budget cycle starting.
Yeah, it was
So
early on.
It was very early in the year.
So we're in May, just
Mhm.
asking, so this will be, we don't anticipate.
This would carry them,
This will carry them over to the next budget cycle?
correct.
And I would say, I don't know what they're planning on asking for in the
But I think we
new
should
budget.
include all that, at least to estimate. I mean,
Yeah.
as to your point, supply and demand at the same time.
Right, if
we could
that's
approximate as
something-
close to it.
Yeah, they need to take that into consideration when they're asking for it. But
Right.
that'll certainly
I'll make
be
a
up.
motion.
Okay, I have a motion for Mr. Alamon. We'll have a second.
Second.
I have a second from Mr. Brandt. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All not in favor, say nay.
No.
2-2.
I
Wait.
said yeah.
Oh, you said yeah, okay, so it's
3-1.
it's 3-1. All right.
Y'all make it suspenseful today.
They like to
You're
send it all
fine.
down.
All right, we like the drama. We like the drama up in here. Okay, we've already done 070525, so 080525 is a request for consideration to declare surplus the property at 1833 29th Avenue South, coming to us from our mayor. That is the old police department, and this is a little premature because we cannot declare it surplus until we actually have the survey and know what we're surplusing. Because we're not surplusing the whole thing, because part of it's gonna be our park. So I would like to table this one, and then we'll bring it back up once we have the survey and know exactly where our lines
I'll
are.
make a motion to table.
Yes, thank you.
Second.
All right, motion to put it on the table for Mr. Alamon and second for Mr. Gwaltney. All in favor, please say aye.
Put something on the table.
Yeah, it has been. Our table's been very empty for a long time. It's kind of exciting. 130525, request for consideration of line item transfers coming to us from Mr. Squires. There are 3. These are almost all in pertaining to vehicle maintenance and fuel and lubricants. We're transferring $15,000 for vehicle maintenance, $12,000 for fuel and lubricants, fuel prices being what they are, and then $3,000 for a water and sewer issue that needed to be dealt with. So that is it. It's a total of it's a total of $30,000 coming from carryover fund balance into those various line items for those things.
The big deal on the fuel, we're running 5 clamshells instead of our normal 4.
Yeah.
And we've been doing that for about 6 months, so it's kind of.
Catching up to you.
added our fuel line.
And I will say, I saw 3 or 4 of them out yesterday cleaning up, so I appreciate them
Yeah.
working on Sunday.
Yeah, from the
and
storm damage.
Doing all the storm
One of the
stuff.
most popular things we do in the city.
Yeah. All right, so that's the
But also, you know, one
request.
thing we could be doing, that's an idea for next year's budget cycle, is a reminder to the city of what you can put in your trash can on Mondays and Thursdays, depending on your pickup cycle, because half the stuff that's on the street on Thursdays could
Could go
technically
into
go in your trash
can,
can,
yeah.
because it's debris, like,
Yeah.
yard debris.
Yeah.
So,
We have a year-round educational
yeah,
opportunity here.
it's a big trash can, fill it up if you're dragging it to the curb.
All right.
Miss Andrews loves these things.
All right, there we go.
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
Second.
thank you. Motion from Mr. Brandt, second from Mr. Alamon. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. That is 4-0 and is approved. 140525, request for consideration of Aldott lighting on Lake Shore and 65, coming to us from Mr. Adams. Randy is working with Alabama Power to possibly come up with a different plan, so for now, we are going to carry this one over without objection. And he'll come back to us when he has more information. So with that, we are adjourned.
Excellent. Well done.
Yeah, I gotta do some trimming on it. Brian? Yeah. You good, sir?
It's Public Works.
Public
involved.
Works,
Yes.
Brian?
Yes, Public Safety, yeah.
Yep, Public Works.
It's Public Works, Brian.
He's got it.
There we go.
Somewhere. There we go.
Public Works Committee meeting for May 19, 2025. Counselor Wolverton.
Here?
Gear.
Here.
Sims. Here. Nelms.
Here.
And Mr. Horton's out. 4.
All right.
4.
We've got 4 out of 5. Can I have a motion to dispense the reading and approval of minutes from May 5th?
Motion?
Motion by Counselor Gear, second by Counselor Sims. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That is 4-0. We have, let's see, old business 370425, request permission to allow planted trees to remain in the right of way at 214 Edgewood Boulevard. Brought to us by Cale Smith and Brendan Garrett. It was carried over last time to try and get some additional information, I believe, and I think we have an extra council member here that wasn't able to be here last time too, so.
Yeah, and some of us hadn't really seen it, and the
Yeah,
pictures
that
didn't
too.
depict
What was currently there, yeah. Yep.
I do have some packets. It's going to be what's on the screen, but if anybody wants one, it's the exact same thing.
Sure.
Thank you very much. As a refresher, my name is Britton Garrett. I'm the landscape architect at the Pink House. With me today, I have Trey Goldstein, Bob Folks, and Lizzie Frazee. They're going to answer some questions that may come up about meetings that happened before I was involved. But for the most part, we're here requesting approval retroactively for trees that were in the right-of-way. There's 2 reasons why we've done this. I believe at the last meeting, there was a sense that we've approached this more out of a ask for forgiveness instead of permission mentality. And my hope is you guys can see that that's not what took place. From the outset, as this project moved through all of its variances, all of the hearings with City Council, the BZA, a consistent thread through all of that was the protection of this hedge around the property. And even after the first failed BZA meeting and we came back to the second one, the homeowners gave affidavits to the city saying that, you know, it is our intent to put back the screen so that the pool that sits on the site is screened from view. And so that is the first part of this. You can see, you know, what existed in 2011, right as the project was starting to come off the ground, behind the scenes in 2021, and then even some of the graphics that were shown with the BZA application in 2021 as well. And then just the next few pictures show kind of what it looks like through the various stages of construction. And on the other side, it gets us to what it looks like when there was nothing there, where the existing hedge was pulled down for the sake of construction. And then the last photo is what is out there today. As far as these getting planted in the right-of-way, at the last meeting, I made the statement that, you know, we had done a code review And there was some pushback on that, saying that it has always been the city's policy that trees cannot be planted in the right of way. In 2021, when the project kicked off, there was no landscape section of the zoning ordinance. All of that existed in chapter 19.5, and it really only gave guidance to trees that were being placed in response to meeting the minimum tree density. Well, this project has never come close to dropping below that minimum tree density, and so we didn't have replacement trees. We just had trees that were coming in, and in what we felt like was an obligation, not only in writing, but also just the general sentiment of the community, to restore this hedge that was taken down for construction to maintain that house behind the high hedge and the secrecy, the secret garden aspect of it, and to shield all of the mechanical equipment for the pool and back of house. As we were going through the project, we did the code review, we got permitted, and then all of the ordinances changed 2 or 3 times. The first one was November of this same year, where everything was moved to zoning, to the appendix in the back of the code. And that's where we first see some guidelines on things under utilities or within some type of easement. As we move forward into 2022, that's where we start to see, or that's where we do see the phrase, trees cannot be in the city right away. And so as we're seeking approval, we just want everyone to consider that this was really done out of what we thought was an obligation to the community, and at the time adhered to the code. At least it didn't go anything that was explicitly prohibited. And so
It's always prohibited.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, Britton, the clarification is it's prohibited in the sense that it's it's the city's property that it's planted.
You have to get permission to do
And
anything in the right
that's
of way.
what the whole thing's about. It's not about necessarily the tree
Trees.
species or anything. It's just
But
to
how-
plant in the city's right of way,
That's right.
it takes prior approval.
Yes.
That's it.
Whether you're putting in a parking pad or planting a tree or anything.
do shrubs and sod require approval?
Shrubs do, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, everything.
Work in the right of way.
If you work in the right of way, you have to have
Architects
permission.
know this, that if you work in the right of way of any city you're in, you're required to have permission.
Because it doesn't belong
The
to
city
you.
of Vestavia, when I reached out to them, that's not exactly the rules if it obstructs the line of sight.
Yeah.
So,
You didn't talk to Pat Riley.
well,
But, you know, what my recollection when this project started, however, about the perimeter and how it would ultimately end up was that the privacy would remain around the perimeter of the property. And if we could just kind of move on to that, because there are a lot of specifics that can be discussed about, you know, working in the right way. And there was a hedge here originally, just as close to the sidewalk, and we understood that that perimeter would be maintained, that some of the trees would come down, some of the vines, some of the privet, that it might change, but that ultimately there would be a privacy perimeter.
I think some of this is because it was at the BZA, not us. But you still would need permission
There's
to,
no-
to come
Well,
and
that-
do
well, we can give.
any of that.
We can give a variance like we have in other cases in this
And you can
situation.
have privacy without it being in the right of way. I
Right.
think that's where,
Yeah.
I think that's where people
Right.
have
So-
different opinions is, if there, you can plant this and not have it in the right of way, so I think
Yes,
some.
but that's not a misunderstanding on my part. It was previously in the right of way. The privacy.
Well, it was overgrown into the right
And
of way,
it
yes, I
currently
agree,
is,
I don't
it
disagree.
currently is on the front side as well.
All I'm saying is, I'm not trying to take, look, I don't have a vote, I'm not trying to take a position, I'm just saying, what I think I hear y'all saying is that some people thought the screen, or whatever you wanna call it, was going to be in the right of way, and other people did not. Because I don't think there was a discussion about where the right of way was, that was my opinion.
But obviously, with all the survey work and everything else being performed at the property, surely we should have had a clear delineation of where the property line was. And again, professionally, I would think that that would be part of the due diligence process before planning something. Part of what bothered me a couple weeks ago when we discussed this is, what I heard you say was, trees got dropped, they had to be brought in by, crane or pulled off the truck with a large piece of equipment. we kind of got caught midstream here, and we decided to go ahead and just plant them, knowing that we were going to have to come and ask. And so I have a hard time personally listening to well, our only option now is we got to chop them down. Like, after knowing that we were going to need to have a discussion about it, we went ahead and planted at that point in time instead of holding off and waiting for the steps to play out as they should.
Andrew, I'm not on the committee, but
Sure.
can I just mention something? And I'm saying this because it's happened sometimes. We have people who come in and go through this process correctly. They come in before they do their planning. They ask us if they can do something in the right of way. They may get approved, they may get denied. So they do what they're supposed to do and they get denied, but yet y'all do this without permission. So it creates an unfair situation where people have done exactly what they're supposed to do and get denied what they want to do because we say, no, you can't do that because it will cause damage to the sidewalks, which there's no question. The tree roots are gonna grow and they're gonna cause damage to the sidewalks at some point. So it's hard to justify to me saying no to somebody who went through the process and did exactly what they were supposed to do, and then retroactively saying, no, you're good, when you didn't do what you're supposed to do.
Well, and I think
creates
the
a
other
problem for
thing
me.
that I'm struggling with is, given all of the processes that this particular property has gone through, understand obviously wanting to, kind of prevent or present a physical barrier to equipment and things that might be unsightly. But we've talked about this in all sorts of cases in the past. And unfortunately, like, I have a tough time wrapping my mind around, this pool wasn't part of the property, it was added, and so now it's a self-imposed hardship that we're requesting because of something we already did in the planning process, when it sounds like we could have shifted the pool 5 feet back or done something else if those trees actually have to be that close. And I didn't step on the property, it's not my property, so I don't know how close they actually are to the equipment right now, or if they could have been moved closer to where the equipment is, that would put them on the property owner's property versus the city's property.
And I'm sorry.
Can I just say something? I mean, I just want to and I understand what y'all are saying, totally do. But we were up front with the BZA and with the city when we got a variance for the pool and for the house. And when we were first denied from the BZA, we got involved, and there were several things that the BZA was concerned about. One was the height of the house, and the Mobblies ended up reducing the variance they needed for the height of the house. One was for the pool, and the Mobblies came back and reduced the size of the pool by 15%. And one area of concern was, is this pool going to be able to be seen by folks who are driving up Roseland? And in response to that concern, Clayton and Rachel Mobley executed affidavits and there were other concerns as well, for what it's worth. One was, is this going to be the Mobley's primary living space? Are they going to rent it out for events and things of that nature? And so we went to the BZA a second time, and we addressed what we thought was the BZA's concerns with respect to all those issues. One issue was, of course, the privacy around the pool, because the neighbors would not want to see inside the pool. And so we said, yes, we're going to, whether it's through existing trees or whether new trees, we're going to maintain that privacy so that it looked the way that it did before. Fast forward a couple of months.
There was a pool before?
No, there wasn't a pool. We got a variance for that pool. So fast forward it to.
Setback variance.
What's that?
You got a setback variance.
Yeah.
That's all you got, a setback variance.
Well, so moving on from there, we had to go back to the city council to get a variance for the fence that we got around the property. And at that meeting, I mean, there's video of it. At that meeting, all this was discussed there as well. Was this pool gonna, the privacy for the pool and maintaining everything so that it looked like it did before. And again, we kind of had affidavits and things submitted of that nature. So I'm just here historically because I know that a lot of you were, I don't know how much
Well,
turnover
we weren't on the
there's been.
BZA, so.
What's that?
We weren't on the BZA.
Well, that's why I'm giving you this
Right,
background.
right.
Because I don't remember seeing you at the BZA or on the city council, which is fine.
Well,
And I
we've
just
all
wanted
been
to-
here since, we've all been on city council.
But that's fine, that's fine.
But my only point was, is for historical knowledge.
Sure.
Is to kind of say, we're not here like, we're not trying to they weren't trying to pull a fast one. They were trying to do what they said they were gonna do. That's my only point.
I understand.
Saying
The problem is just surveys should be pulled regardless with all of this work,
No,
and it should be
the
known
survey-
where the property
survey was
lines are,
pulled.
so.
We knew where these were going. We knew that the existing hedge was in the right of way, and so the intent was that this went back in the right of way.
So that's it,
No,
and that's
that-
the difference too, is like when
the problem.
we approved, I guess, it to stay as is, but when you plan something new in the right of way, it takes approval because there's a indemnification agreement that needs to be signed related to that landscaping.
Ms. Nell?
Which is how we
Yes,
are here.
just one,
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
one
I'll-
thing I wanted to point out is that
Hold on.
I don't think, by any means that you guys don't know the process, because I remember specifically y'all coming to us before us, to make sure before you did work to the wall, because that was in the right of way. And I remember y'all coming before us for that. So that's, again, where, I have some hesitation about it because that was understood then, but it hasn't been understood for this part.
Okay, Beverly?
May I say something?
Sure.
You may remember I was chair of the
Yeah.
BCA during this, so it was our understanding that the overgrowth would be cleaned out because it definitely needed, the trees would be pruned or whatever needed to be to clean up the property so it looked like it's supposed to look. But that would be left there and that it would be fenced because the pool needed a fence. But that's all that my recollection is, and the only thing affidavit I remember themselves signing that came to us was the affidavit to finish the pink house and the addition within 12 months.
Well,
And I still have all the paperwork, so I didn't
Well, I have
throw it
copies
away.
of the affidavits we submitted if you want to see them.
That's the only one we got.
No, I submitted affidavits to the BZA at the September 2nd, 2021 meeting, because, you can see the video.
Yeah.
We-
So anyway, it was our understanding, my understanding, and I'm sure, and I feel the same for the other people, that it was proper, the overgrowth and all would be cleared away and the pool would be secured with a fence. So I didn't ever, when I first saw that, I went, well, they got another variance for the trees, but evidently they didn't. So that's.
Well, actually, though, at that meeting, in fairness to the Mobleys, at that meeting on September the 2nd that I was at, we talked about, I talked through this affidavit, and I read specifically from paragraph 7 of the affidavit that talked about the barrier being replaced by trees.
Well,
So I just wanted to.
And I think both things could be true. They could be replaced, but also be on your property, not
Yeah.
the city's property. So I think that's where the large disagreement is at this point. And again, to Ms. Nelm's point about, we knew the process for the wall, which was in the right of way, but somehow we didn't think it was important to do the same for the other. I don't know.
May I ask a question?
Sure. Councilor Alderman.
Would it have been possible to have planted the trees on your own property and still allow for the pool that they built?
That's what I was trying to ask.
Yeah, because
earlier.
it's basically saying it's a
That's just-
self-imposed.
Right,
Hardship.
this could have happened, right? This could have
Yes.
happened.
Retroactive.
So when you had done the survey, you knew where your property line was, and there was a choice made to not plant these trees within the property.
Yes, given the fact that we were all operating under the put back what was there mentality. Try and get the hedge back where it was, because if there's a jog that's not the same character, if it's a screen that's only 4 or 5 feet wide, that's not the same character as what was there. All of this was done under the thought process.
But you also put different trees that was there before, so we changed the character and the nature.
And to be fair, what was there before was
And
pretty
it was also the
overgrown.
fencing that was what was desired to block the pool, and that could have occurred, it just didn't.
Well, the fencing from the beginning and the variances was never a solid object. It was a.
Sure. So, and there was, I'm just saying there's a variety of options that could have been made decisions could have been made that were not.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
One more question. I feel like if this is, again, I have a real problem with, we've denied people this very thing who have gone through the process correctly. This has not been done correctly, and it feels very unfair to me to retroactively approve it. But if it is so important to the homeowners to have this done, would there be a willingness for them to proffer to repair the sidewalks when they're damaged? Because they're going to be damaged by the tree roots. And that will then be us having to repair those, because people use those sidewalks every day and need to use that to safely get to Edgewood for school or whatever. And that's gonna happen, and it's gonna be a trip problem, and that puts us at liability. So my question is, if it's important enough for them to wanna come and do this, would it be something that they would be willing to proffer? You know, when that happens down the road, and it's not an if, it's a when.
I do have concerns about based on the ownership.
And then along with maintaining.
Well,
the
I
hedge,
mean,
which
let's be
I'm
honest,
sure they'll do.
is that house gonna sell?
Well,
I don't know.
I think it's something they would certainly entertain, because even back before we got to planting, I had a conversation with them, hey, if this is in the right of way, it is not yours. And they understood that. They knew that should it be planted and the city comes back 3 days later and stalls it off of the ground.
Well, I mean, that's another thing too. I mean, if for whatever reason we ever needed to access that property, that's part, and that's part of the reason. Y'all will have to sign an indemnification
Right.
agreement that says, if we decide this is ours, the trees are gone.
Sure.
But I think more importantly, and it's not something that we need to know that they'll entertain, in order to move on this, we need to have an answer, is whether they're willing to proffer that. And that's, I mean, because I can say for me, that would possibly make a difference in what my decision would be, because I feel like if they have taken the responsibility to put these trees in the right of way that are gonna damage the sidewalks, that they should be willing to make the repairs on those sidewalks when the damage occurs. That's just my personal opinion.
I would think that they would agree to that, but I mean, obviously, I know you need an answer, you
Right,
can't say
you
what a lot of
can't.
folks would think they would do.
Right.
But, so, I mean, I would imagine that is something that they would totally do.
Okay, well, I mean, I
We
think
don't
that's.
have the document because we have to have a legal description of the property.
Right, yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely not, and first of all, we don't have an answer from them anyway.
And Mike, how enforceable is that?
It's enforceable.
Okay, does it carry with the property as well?
It would, if you have the legal description and record it as a covenant running with the land.
So if a property were to sell, that's,
They're bound by whatever.
whoever buys it would be in the title
If it's
report.
recorded properly. That's why I'm saying we don't have that document today.
Sure. Okay.
And I will just add to, that really, I mean, just again, this was really about the process needed for the right-of-way approval and agreement, and that's how we ended up here, irregardless of prior variances. But that being said, I've heard of from a number of residents nearby, and they obviously do desire some type of screening from the pool and the pool equipment. So I am also taking into consideration what they would like aesthetically, as neighbors across the street. Given that, can we make a motion pending a proffer, or do we need to hold
Well,
it in committee?
I don't think there's a point in moving it out, because that would be
No.
tonight.
Because he
Right.
said, like
without
Mike said, we don't
knowing
have any kind of document
That's
or
right.
legal description.
Okay, well then I'm just fine carrying it over then.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would do
And I hate that, because that means the construction continues to be on hold pending this consideration, is that correct? That's what I heard today.
Yeah.
One portion of it.
It's always helpful for the applicant property owner to be here for these meetings. I mean,
And
at all,
again, the
at all
fact that
times,
the
so.
construction is at halt is not really our problem.
But that is a part of this right now.
Right, but it's not, but that's not our.
No, I mean, I agree with Counselor
Again, cell phone
Wolverton. It
numbers.
would be ideal if the property owner was here so we could act quickly.
Yeah.
Do we include in the proffer that they maintain?
That, we don't include anything, they have to
They have
profit,
to-
whatever.
But do we need it to be included, that they maintain the hedge? Not that they would not, I feel sure that they will, but does that need to be a part of?
I think the proper would probably be that they maintain everything that's in the right of way, and that they make repairs to whatever damage those roots cause when they tear up the sidewalk. Yeah, that's what.
And allow the
And there's an
sidewalk to be
indemnification.
accessible at all times.
And sign the
They have to do
indemnification.
that. I mean,
Yeah, you're
that-
gonna have
you
to
have
do
to do that anyway.
Right,
Yes.
right, right.
So that's not inclusive of the proffer.
I mean, the indemnification agreement is required by law, so that has to happen. The
And
proper just is,
the
yeah.
city has an ordinance, the sidewalk has to be passable at all times, so
Yeah.
that's covered by city ordinance.
And just to be clear, I just want to clarify this. I know that you mentioned that, you know, this ordinance changed. We've never allowed things to be planted in the right of way or done in the right of way without the
permission.
indemnification agreement and permission.
Right.
That has never changed. So
Well, and-
regardless of when the project started or where we are in the process,
Never happened.
that is something that has been consistent at all times.
Well, and,
So.
I mean, with that being true, there was nothing that keyed that off, that was where the line is drawn for the approval. You know what I'm, because now currently it says no trees in the right of way.
Sometimes you just need to be.
Sure. Fair enough.
I just want to be clear, because the next time this comes up, not so much about this one, the right-of-way is the right-of-way.
Right, it just is.
It's the city's
That's like going onto someone
property.
else's property and doing something without permission.
Right.
You can't do it.
You can't do it. It
And
is
the
illegal.
survey shows where the right-of-way is. That's the reason you have a survey. Now, whatever the council does with this one, that's fine, but I want everyone to understand, moving forward, if you do, and it has always been this way, if you do something in the right-of-way, or if you want to do something in the right-of-way, you have to come ask permission, because that's the city's property.
Yes.
So, I don't want there to be any confusion amongst anyone
Anybody.
else out there that might be wanting to work in the right-of-way. That's the process for doing anything in the right-of-way, whether it's talking about planning stuff, building a wall,
Whatever it
a
is.
parking pad, it doesn't matter what it is. If you're in the right-of-way, you have to come get permission from the city.
Yes.
Period, the end. Always been that way, always will be that way.
Yes, you can't build stuff on other people's property.
Counselor Gwaltney?
Yeah, I just have one question. So if we're discussing the right of way, can we clarify with Mr. Q's department if they will require them to repair the road? Because from the multiple years of construction, the road in front of these trees is extremely deteriorated in really bad shape. I've traversed this area probably 4 times a week, and it's a hazard if you're in the street.
That's not part of tonight's issue.
Yeah,
It's not part of
he's
the
not
issue.
here, but I guess
It would
we
be
can.
nice to be included in the proffer to repair the rest of our right of way, if it's gonna be included. Or if Mr. Q's already got that.
Yeah, I don't know, but
They'll have to come with their own.
representatives here.
Typically,
Are you carrying it over?
Kate, what'd
Yeah,
you
what's that?
Yeah, what'd you say?
typically, inspections department wouldn't consider construction, damage to the right of way, because typically projects don't last for this long, and there's not that many, not that much heavy equipment that moves across the same.
So, but you want me to go back to the homeowners and ask about the road in front of the?
I think, I wanted Mr. Q to assess it and tell us if the condition warrants that, or maybe it's not.
This is not this issue we're gonna move on.
Over my sleeve.
Counselor
Okay.
Wolverton,
So-
yeah,
Counselor
I'm
Sims.
in favor of carrying it over as the rest of the committee members are. I know we have, because without a proffer, can't take action.
Right, so, yeah, I think we're gonna plan to carry this over
Need the
and,
legal description if there's gonna be any problems.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, well, and we have to get the proper.
right, so we'll plan to carry this over, I guess.
Next meeting
Your
is
representatives can
June
speak with
2nd.
Mr.
June
Kendrick
2nd.
about what he needs.
I need the legal description, there's nothing secret about it.
He needs to bring a proffer from the.
Legal
homeowners
description of the
and a
proffers,
legal
yeah.
description. Yep, that's it.
Okay,
6-2.
so we're gonna carry that over without objection, and then we have one new business item, this should be relatively quick. It is 090525, request consideration of installation of right turn lane at the north end of Cobb Street at the intersection of Oxmoor
Andrew,
Road.
can I ask a question?
Yes.
If this is not an emergent thing, can we move this to we should probably put this in the budget request for the coming year, instead of doing this now 2 months in advance of doing the budget.
Yeah, the discussion was just really, could we go ahead and get the survey done so that we kind of have a scope for the budget?
I mean, Glenn, do we need to get a survey if we're not gonna do it until the budget year starts?
It just speeds it up if you wanna do it.
Well, I mean, I agree, but
So-
we've added a lot of things.
So that, I guess, you know, the discussion is, traffic backs up here, there's new development down the street. We're 3 feet shy, Randy's measured it, 3 feet shy of adding a third lane. We got 12 feet of city right of way here. Randy said if we basically expand 6 feet out, we'd have a dedicated right turn lane, and then this is public safety, Brian. That's public safety. Anyway, so the discussion is just that we wanted to look at adding the dedicated right turn lane to alleviate traffic concerns that come at this intersection, so. So we can go ahead and, we can carry it over, I guess, if we wanted to.
I mean, y'all, it's, I'm not on the committee. I'm just saying, this whole, we need to start, and the whole thing needs to be carried over to the new budget year, in my opinion.
I think, Councilor Allen, did you?
It's your committee.
I know. Do you have an opinion? But I would like to move
I
forward
do think that we
personally
should-
with the survey.
Considering that these things take time and that everything gets delayed, and if we wait till the budget year, then we're gonna have to wait till October to do the survey. We might as well do the survey now, so that when we budget it, we can move quickly on installing this, considering the anticipated traffic that we're gonna have in the area due to the restaurants and the apartments. And so that when we can get our ducks in a row, which is all this is doing, is getting our ducks in a row, so that we can build out, and so that Randy can do the work that's required.
Right.
I would encourage us to consider doing the survey now.
Randy, is this item budgeted, or we have to do an amendment to finance?
It is not.
So if we approve this, it would just go on to finance for June 2nd discussion?
For the we'd need to send the survey to finance?
Yes, because.
'Cause there's no-
We've done this, same thing as we've done with the bunch of surveys lately, but yeah, I just want to make clear, we're talking about this, what y'all are asking for is the survey.
The survey,
The
yes,
survey.
so that we can have things known about the scope of the work and what will need to be done to help better budget it.
Typically be a contract for the survey.
Right, we'd need a contract with the surveyor, which is what we would do. If we do the survey, our internal people have said this is more a budget item, the actual project. So I think it needs to be considered with the other items for budget. I don't mind a survey being done, but I wouldn't want to get beyond the survey,
Sure.
I guess is my point, into
And that's what we're asking
engineering or
right now.
anything else. If we just wanna look at it and see, if y'all are willing to look at it and just sort of see where the lines are and what can be done and what can't, I don't have as much of an issue.
I would
with
like
that.
to make a motion to approve to send to finance for consideration of a budget amendment to pay for a survey.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Sims, second by Counselor Gear. All in favor?
Aye.
That is 4-0, and with that, we stand adjourned. Thank you.
Public Safety Committee meeting from May 19, 2025. Counselor Gwaltney.
Here.
Wolverton.
Here.
Brandt.
Here.
Nelms.
Here.
Hardin is out, so you got 4, sir.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to dispense with the reading and approve of the minutes from the Public Safety Committee meeting May 5th.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Motion made by Counselor Nelms, seconded by Counselor Brandt. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, 4-0. Under old business, 340425, request for a safety issue discussion related to Oxmoor Street in St. Charles. We're gonna carry this item over from discussion earlier today. We're still pending, reports back in a couple of meetings that are gonna happen this week. 350425, request for consideration of installation of traffic calming system on the west end of Oxmoor Road near Northmore Drive and Oakmore Drive. Do we want to?
Yes, so Kale.
Discuss this item tonight?
Yes, we've got some residents that came. Kale, do you wanna speak, or Randy to speak to the, kind of the studies that we were looking at here? And then Brian, actually, yeah, let's go with the traffic studies first.
Yeah, so, and Randy can jump in. The traffic studies were done along Oxmoor Road. There have been 2 of them done in the past 2 weeks, 3 weeks. One in front of 148 Oxmoor Road and one in front of 133 Oxmoor Road. 85th percentile is what we use to measure traffic calming data. 85th percentile in front of 133 was 32 miles per hour, and 32 miles per hour headed in both directions. And in front of 148, it was 36 miles per hour and 34 miles per hour heading in either direction.
So, yeah, so the speed limit here is 25. There's 2 crosswalks. I've had constant complaints from residents for a number of years about the safety of kids crossing the street here. Other neighbors, for anybody that doesn't really know the area, Oxmoor here kind of bisects a sliver of the neighborhood that doesn't have their own set of sidewalks. Kind of in the north end there, this Edge Drive and Edge Lane, as well as Edgecrest. So Kale had discussed potentially putting in some traffic calming measures where the stars are indicated. So kind of between Edgenall Drive and Edgecrest there, and then the other one was out closer to the left, Brian, right there. So the other thing that's a little bit unique with this area, if you can go to the far right there, Brian, and zoom in just a little bit, there's offset light right here at Oakmore and Edgecrest. People habitually are hitting the gas to run that light as it's extremely long with those 2 intersections. So lots of traffic complaints right around the corner. Is about to be 300 to 400 apartments as well. So we're kind of taking into consideration traffic as well as speed. I've spoken with Chief Ross and Chief Broadhead, and we've discussed looking at a speed cushion, as Kale has discussed these being the most pleasing to fire and police response, as well as helping to alleviate those speeding and traffic concerns. So I know there's a few residents here to speak to it if we wanted to hear from them. So, but other than that,
Are they all for the positive or all for any negatives?
they are all for the positive, I believe.
I have a
Yeah.
question about it, Andrew, though.
Okay,
Ask you.
Ms. LaBeouf?
Would the, stop sign at Northmore and the traffic light at Oakmore stay?
As I understood it, it would stay, correct?
Stay?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I assume it would stay.
That's fine.
This is the first step in slowing people
Yeah.
down, and then we'll take it.
Mr. Mayor.
I just want to offer one perspective, and Andrew and Carlos talked to me about this, and I was just telling Carlos
Yeah.
that I was picturing something different, and so I just want to offer this perspective. We had these before, this kind, on Roseland, and they created all kinds of problems, because what happens is the rubber tears up and the rebar sticks up out of the ground, and the cars get destroyed. We had flat tires, we had wheels that came off, I mean, we had all kinds of stuff that happened with this kind. So I'm not.
And I'm not, this was just one example, but I think anything.
is, and Birmingham just had the same problem downtown.
Okay.
With the more temporary style of these things. So I'm just speaking to that picture.
Yeah.
I mean, we had literally this exact same thing on Roseland, and we finally got rid of them because they were tearing up cars on a weekly basis.
Sure.
Roseland's great.
Hmm?
Roseland is
Yeah,
great.
now, yeah, no, I understand that.
Yeah.
We'll take Roseland.
This was, these were a disaster on Roseland.
Yeah, go ahead,
And I'll
Mr.
say,
Alaman.
The mayor's,
Or sorry, that's,
mayor's guidance there in terms of what kind
yeah.
of instrument we would use there.
Sure.
And I would love to have an exploration as to a speed table that would be more permanent and maybe less rubbery.
Sure.
That can come up and fill up and potentially cause any vehicular problems. At the same time, having said that, and living in the neighborhood, and we have neighbors here who have voiced repeatedly concerns about the traffic in this area, and that we are, unlike other parts of Homewood, so I'll say that this is unique to our side of Homewood, and we're on the industrial side of Homewood with an extraordinary amount of traffic beyond the apartments that were approved both on our end and the ones that were approved down the street in Oxmoor, that this requires special attention to it. So the consideration being, maybe not this exact model of speed table, but something that can still encourage folks to slow down as we're navigating these changes on our side of town.
I would say something probably similar to Mecca would be, where it's a little
All I have
broader.
to say is
and-
that we can explore. I don't
Yeah.
want to necessarily marry us to an idea of, but that we commit, because we do this all the time.
Yeah.
We bring these items to the committee, and then we say we'll explore, and I don't mean to explore as to what that we'll do something. I say, I want us to commit to doing something and then putting something that will be. What I'm saying is we'll explore what it looks like, but that we commit to doing something.
I have a question for Mr. Smith. So I wrote down the speed limit, or this, I'm sorry, I wrote down the speeds. What was the volume of cars?
Like 6,500 one way and close to 5,000 the other way over a 3-day period.
So 148, that AADT, the average annual daily traffic, in front of 148 was 2,111. Eastbound and westbound is 1,649.
And I want to stay on topic.
And that's about the same as in front of 133 that they've done.
I want to stay on that. Are we ever going to discuss, or is it even possible to, if you go to the far left, the tie-in to West Osborne Road, will that ever become a one-way or
Well, that's not on
block?
topic.
I know.
I don't want to talk about that right now. I'm just saying, no, we're not doing that today.
Not doing that today. All right, stay on topic.
So we do have council
Part of that's in
following this meeting.
Birmingham. Part of that's in Birmingham.
Yeah, so we're gonna get back on topic,
So-
since we have a long council meeting after this and
I
a
understand.
long committee meeting. So, we've been given the speed limits, we've been given the quantity of traffic committee.
Yeah.
Make a motion to request their consideration.
Are we?
Well,
Whoa,
I would, yeah.
What?
Consideration. What?
What are we?
Is this the
I
building?
would-
To build
I would-
this?
I would like to make a motion
Well.
to install at the did we say at the mayor's?
You don't need an ordinance.
You don't want to find out exactly
Install
what.
making a motion That we don't
Approve
have,
this.
nobody's calling me about.
Speed bumps?
Yeah.
Speed humps?
Yeah, based, and of course pending the type or whatever.
Pending
but-
approval, I mean, and Mayor, I think, how do we decide what? Based on your suggestion that these particular models are not desired.
Yeah, I think if the council wants to move forward with these, that it would be something that doesn't come up, right? It doesn't get torn up, so.
Permanent on the roadway.
So like a Roseland asphalt speed bump.
Yeah, I mean, it would have to, whether it's asphalt or it's
Yeah.
something else, but I think it needs to be permanent if the council wants to do this, and
Yep.
and I suspect that there's still an if there. But if the council wants to do this, then I would just suggest we not use the temporary rubber kind
Sure.
that are attached with
Understood.
rebar. It's more about what we don't use than what we do use.
I would, I mean, personally, I would like something similar to what Mecca has, where it's a broader, more of a cushion type device, but that would help slow traffic without being as jarring on suspensions and that sort of thing.
Counselor Jones?
Yeah, we've always wanted to do the comprehensive traffic study to determine what effects this would have, because we've always looked at putting the speed humps on one street and then everybody goes to the other street. So it's it's more of a complex
And here, the
issue.
other street would be Oxmoor Boulevard, which is really what's designed to carry that
I'm just saying,
flow.
that we looked at a more comprehensive, like what's downstream effects to this one street, putting in speed humps. And that's what we tried to do in every installation, and it's caused a lot of problems.
I'm not gonna answer that question, because I don't know the answer to that question.
I do think, considering where this, you
you
were standing up to speak, I'm sorry. I thought you were
Yeah,
talking
no,
to Mr. Hamlin.
what I was gonna say is, separate from studying what happens, the way our traffic calming policy currently reads is that that there is really only about 5%, 10% at the top that I think
It reads.
that we would do these kind of things for, whether it's moving the road, putting in a roundabout, speed bump, whatever it is, that is a very narrow portion of the roadways, because so many of our roads are similar. So if you do it, if you get below that threshold, then what you do on one suddenly becomes what you need to do on every road. And so, my understanding is that this is falling into that grouping of roads, which is what's making it possible to do this and distinguishing it from the rest of the roads in Homewood.
And I think let's be proactive, because we do have hundreds of apartments, some in Homewood, some in Birmingham, adjacent to Homewood, 2 very successful restaurants coming, new parking coming that we've gone to expense. Let's do it the right way and be proactive for a change.
Yes. My only thing is, like, I'm happy to say that it would be an asphalt speed bump, and that we suggest and moving forward that way.
Yes.
President Jones, I agree with you that we don't want necessarily everywhere in the city, but I do think that this particular street is unique based on its location as to where it is in terms of the interstate essentially and nearby and the highway that is Oxmoor.
And to answer your question, your concern about where does it send traffic, I mean, because of where it's located, there's no other internal street to send traffic to. It would do the design, which is to send it either east or westbound on Oxmoor Boulevard, which is a much broader, higher, flow,
The
traffic
last thing I'll
road.
say, you'll have half the street that will be very, very angry at you. And half the street that will
I've
be
not heard that, and I've got people from both sides of the street.
After installation, I
Sure.
promise you, historically, you will have half the street.
That's something I'm willing to bear at this point, and I think Councilor Alman is as well. So I would move to.
We're not there yet. Did we follow the traffic calming policy with this? We did, correct?
Yes.
So we skipped the petition part.
Yeah.
Okay. Follow that.
We haven't done it procedurally correctly, I don't think. Right.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Procedurally, we have not followed as to what we're supposed to do, right?
Correct. There hasn't been a petition done according to the policy, but I will say that we have.
I'm not worried about that.
It's also a public notice.
Yeah.
It allows for input.
Do we have time to,
Can we make that public notice?
yeah.
Can you, sure?
So,
Not tonight.
I'm gonna make one quick comment. And it sounds, I agree with you guys, this road is very unique, and I do feel like this will drive traffic back out to Oxmoor where it belongs. I do believe that with the changes that were made with the stop sign you added up further, closer to the gym, that.
I didn't add that up, but I think,
So this is telling me the majority of this traffic and the speeding issue is from people in the neighborhood, most likely. Because I've turned at that intersection, you're not coming through there, especially right now with construction going on, you're not coming up the turning foot.
There's people that live right there.
I'm not taking public comment tonight, I'm sorry, we can do this at the council meeting. We've got too loaded of an
I
agenda,
understand.
no offense to anyone, but I do think this is a good solution for this area. But I feel like we've got some process pieces to follow. If the committee wants to push it out, I will not block a motion and request we carry it over, but I feel like there's some procedure we need to go through to get this done the right way, as from a precedent perspective.
I think that we've had plenty of conversations with the city engineer, with the mayor and others. Now, I don't mean to fast forward or any process. I'm city attorney, this is the public notice, I mean, you have to do that.
Can I offer a compromise?
Yes, sir.
How about we let the process play out that needs to play out, and in the meantime, I was talking with Berkeley, and we'll go ahead and start working on what it would be. So, which is gonna have to take some time anyway. I mean, it's not like they can go out there and do that tomorrow. So if you wanna go ahead and do the public notice, we can skip ahead on the work since it's gonna be internal. And that way, if you get to the point where with public notice and everything's fine, we'll be ahead of the game at that point. That sounds great.
Yeah, I would like to say for the record too, that Mr. Smith, we do already have funding, correct, that would cover the scope of what we're discussing in terms of speed cushion.
So we have $60,000 budgeted in
Yeah.
West.
So just want to make sure that that was out there and everybody knew we wouldn't have to add something budgetarily, so.
Yeah, if we could do that so that we can,
So to be
I'm
clear,
really worried about time.
yeah, sure.
I'm not trying to obstruct. I think it's a good idea personally. I'm just making sure that when the next one comes along, that we've dotted our i's and crossed our t's. We
Sure.
haven't set an incorrect precedent that we then have to.
And I think we can make the timing, my point is, I think we can get the same spot with timing.
Yeah.
And do that.
Okay. So the motion would be to
Well, you're gonna carry it over.
Carry it over
to do
right
that
now.
stuff. I administratively will.
And what's our notice time? That's not for a public hearing? What is the notice for?
It is for a public hearing, it's a speed hump. is what it is.
Okay, so there is a public hearing,
There's a
okay.
process, and we have an ordinance that's been in place for
I got you.
25 years.
Okay, thank you.
So
That
do
sounds
we
great.
Push it out and schedule a public hearing, or not?
You said carry it over.
Yes.
Carry it over.
Yeah,
I mean, I think we
Okay.
could set the public hearing in
June
30 days is what you're saying, in
30
terms of
days.
the timeline and the process playing out.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanna set it out far enough where you can do that.
Okay, we'll carry it over and set the public hearing.
There you go.
For, I just don't have my phone out.
Not June 9th.
Not June 9th, yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's not 30 days anyway, so.
Right.
What's the one after that? It'll be the 15th,
23rd.
23rd. That's
Hmm.
good days.
Council meeting.
Carlos.
Yeah,
All right,
council.
Carlos.
So, Councilwoman, are you good if we carry this item over, setting the public hearing for June 23rd?
Personally, I'd prefer to set the public hearing for July 14th.
Okay.
Just knowing,
Motion to set a public hearing and keep the other portion in your committee.
yeah. So we'd motion to set a public hearing for July 14th, pending the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to set the public
He made
hearing
it.
for.
You're seconding.
June 23rd.
He made the motion.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't
For
understand
July-
the committee. I'm
July
sorry.
14th.
Second.
Second by
Okay.
Counselor
Sorry.
Nelms.
We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it 4-0. Public safety is adjourned.
Okay.
All right, who's here for?
We are gonna, with all, you're about to see the, why we're rushing. We're kind of rushing. I think fundamentally everybody agreed.
But with the public hearings, there'll definitely be additional opportunities for.
Oh, wait.
Well, you mighty quiet.
Here it is. Here's right, okay. Yeah, I'm ready.
Mind your chair.
Planning and Development Committee meeting for May 19th, 2025. Counselor Andrews.
Here.
Waltney. Here. Wolverton. Sims.
Here.
And Nelms.
Here, all right. All here. Thank you. All right, I'll begin with the motion to dispense with the reading and approve the minutes from the last meeting of April 21st. All those in favor? Thank you, sorry. I just started, I was going too fast, sorry. Counselor Nell, second from Counselor Gwaltney. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes 5-0. Okay, old business. Request for consideration of rezone property at 101 and 109 to 109 Hughes Circle, consisting of 9 residential lots. I have been in communication with John Chapman. I feel very comfortable that we will make some sort of movement on that June 16th. So without objection, we're going to continue to carry that over. Next items we are going to hear together, and that is, that is also the same for 130225. Request for consideration of a final development plan for property at 101 and 109 Hughes Circle. Again, without objection, we're going to carry that over. I anticipate to make some sort of movement on that June 16th. All right, we are going to move over and hear the next 4 items together. That is 090425, consideration rezone 1601 Parkview Lane, and 600 and 601 University Park Place. That had a Planning Commission voted 9-0 in favor of that recommendation for rezoning. 100425 public hearing set for June 9th. Final development plan for the same property, 1601 Park Lane and Parkview Lane and 600-601 University Park Place. Planning Commission 6-3 favorable recommendation. 110425 public hearing set for June 9th. Rezone 1891, 1919, 1921 South Lake Shore Drive and 1100 University Park Place. Planning Commission had a vote of 7-2 favorable recommendation. 120425 public hearing set for June 9th. consideration of final development plan for the same 1891, 1919, 1921 South Lake Shore and 1100 University Park Place. Planning Commission had a 5-4 vote for a favorable recommendation. All right, the way it's going to go tonight, we have a 6 o'clock council meeting. I'm sure we are going to run over. If Landmark is ready to go, let's try to keep that at 30 minutes. Is that possible? And then I would like to give the committee and the council, I'm going to hear from a few other folks that have been in regular communication with us with some issues that they have would like to identify. And but that's it. Everyone else on June the 9th, please join us. That will be open for every single person who wants to speak to come and speak. So tonight we're just going to hear from a couple of representative folks, and then time for any council or committee questions. And then if we can make it to council by 6:10, I feel great about that. Go ahead.
Can you, since we've got a lot of people here who were not here at 3:45, can you give a summary? Do you want me to give a summary?
Why don't you get, yeah, so for those who were not here for the 3:45 Finance Committee meeting, it's been a long night already, the mayor is going to give us an update on the financial incentive / abatement package that has been requested by Sanford. That really, again, all of this to be considered really is one complete proposal.
Just so everyone understands, that has to go through Finance Committee, this has to go through Planning and Development, that's why they're divided up. Sanford and Landmark did present at 3:45 with their proposal. That proposal, I'm going to summarize it. They may put it a little bit differently than I am, but I think I'm getting everything accurate. That is for the city to abate,
No.
not abate,
No.
to share, I guess is the technical, the
717.
legal term.
Yeah.
Because it's anyway. To share the taxes, but what we would be sharing is to give Sanford and Landmark 100% of the ad valorem lodging and sales tax that came off this property, except for what goes to schools, for 20 years with a cap of $26 million. So I just want everyone to be aware of that as this presentation goes on. Because I think it's part of what everyone should consider.
It's a three-legged stool, it all
Yep.
goes together. Okay, we're ready. All right. Brian, you got anything to show? Okay.
Good evening.
You're up.
Bob Dunn with Landmark Development. I'm going to keep this very brief, just in the interest of, you've got a full agenda already. Trying to help you get through that. Just a couple points that we wanted to touch on. Just to speak to some of the issues that we've heard, you know, in a more consistent manner. Not to say there aren't a lot of other issues we could speak to, and I think tomorrow we're going to post on the website an FAQ that gets into more detail on some of the more specific issues.
Not to interrupt you, can for anyone who's here for the first time, because this really is the first time that we've heard this in the Planning and Development Committee at the City Council level. So I've heard it at Planning Commission. I know a lot of people are in tune and they've seen the presentations throughout the city. Can you just do a very brief overview of the actual project?
Sure.
So just as it looks like on a map.
Right. Best way to explain it is on the map.
There it is.
So this is the Creekside West development as proposed. Just to give you some orientation, Sanford is to the north across Lakeshore Drive. The high school is to my right. You can see the ball field. That's part of the high school property. And then this property is currently in the center is where the Sanford soccer and track complex is. Surface parking to the west, the existing office building where it says University Park Place. So this is the basic development plan for Creekside West. It's a combination of mixed use elements, proposed hotel, mixed use meaning some office, some residential. And then the center point, and really each of the buildings around that B2 building where it says community would have a concentration of what we think of as lifestyle, retail, dining, entertainment. You know, we've been asked what period of time do we think this will be developed over. Typically something like this would be about a 7 to 10 year development plan. You know, part of what we focused on is working under your new zoning category for mixed use. working with city staff, in certain respects, we're trying to predict the future and lay out a plan that we believe we can execute on, and I think we've done a good job of that, just anticipating the different uses, which is really based on market research that we've done where we know there's demand for certain types of uses. So is that helpful? Does that give enough of a?
And do you also want to mention the east side, or what, I know you need to, yeah.
Is that, so what you just saw involves both a rezoning to the new MXD zoning category and an approval of the development plan as per the plan that you just saw. That's Creekside West. Creekside East, you'll see an image here in a minute, is obviously the property further to the east. As that was proposed, would involve basically a rezoning of that property because the uses there now are currently non-conforming. So the plan there is basically to bring the zoning current with an institutional category of zoning so that the uses, the recreational uses of those fields and what have you would become conforming.
The uses don't change from current.
Correct. Correct. So Creekside East basically is what you see here now. It's the intramural rec fields that the university has. There's some parking there and there's ancillary outbuildings, but basically this site would be rezoned and the uses would more or less continue as they are today.
Can I ask a clarification about that really quick?
Yeah.
Did we advertise for the public hearing the plan amendment for Creekside East?
We did, we advertised the map that shows the existing as-built improvements.
Okay, thank you.
So specifically, what is gonna happen on Creekside East per your development plan proposal?
No.
I know we talked about the track is not gonna move there anymore.
Correct.
So tell us exactly what is gonna happen, and you're just submitting the survey, the existing survey of the land, or what is gonna happen on Creekside East for your proposal?
Yeah, we're beginning to, with our DAG group, our advisory group, we're starting to look at ways that, consistent with how we always talked about Creekside East, ways that we can improve access, awareness, education in the whole Creekside East and Creekside West development. Creating better connection to, to the lakes or to the Creekside path, creating potentially a network of trails and what have you to really create much more of a community asset here than what's there today. So those plans are just beginning to evolve, but that's something that we've had quite a bit of time and attention on over these last several months. So, hopefully as we get further along, those things will start to take on more definition.
Bob, have you talked to the Board of Education? I mean, those new parking lots, I thought the Board of Education built, obviously are on y'all's land, that road to the right.
No.
No, that's.
No, those are ours.
Here?
Those are, so,
Yeah,
right above the
the
high school
Creekside
to the
East.
right.
Yeah.
There, your finger,
yes.
yeah, right there, yes. It looks like a ruler.
Above.
right here?
Slots,
Yes.
yes. Is that not Homewood High School parking lots?
Yeah.
They just built 2 years ago?
It is.
Aye.
We're not changing, we're not touching that.
Okay.
Let
That
me-
just,
Let me say this again. The east side is exactly what's there.
Okay.
That's what's been proposed, and that's what's been advertised, and nothing else can be built unless there's a
but we just need to change the zoning to what it should be, correct?
institution.
Okay. So that's,
So if you got new trails, new things like that, you're gonna have to come back
Correct.
for east.
Correct.
So, Mike, would we drop the development plan request then, that?
No, the development plan is attached, is the as-built survey of the existing improvements.
Okay, all right. Okay,
doesn't have
I'm
any
sorry,
new
all right.
It has no change in what's there today. And if you propose something different, then you need to speak up, because we need to advertise it again.
Great, thanks.
Okay.
So that gives you the background on both Creekside East, Creekside West. Some of the issues that we've continued to work on, and we've had, a good amount of conversation on all these and many others. Want to keep the list more focused for this evening, but number one, Shades Creek, salamander habitat. A lot of time and effort went into this, I think more than anything else. This is an excellent example of how the process can work. It was through community engagement and creation of our DAG and what have you that This is probably the one area where we saw, with the original plan for Creekside East, no matter how we went about it, there was going to be some negative outcome. You know, it's just unavoidable. How negative, you know, was something that a lot of discussion, a lot of debate happened around that. Saw ways that we could potentially, you know, mitigate some of those impacts, but even with that, there were gonna be some negative outcomes. So, because of that, the whole idea here is how can we do something with the investment that's coming with Sanford Horizons and Creekside that is only additive to the community. That's sort of been the underpinning of this whole plan from the beginning. So in this case, we couldn't get there, and a decision was made, let's just pull back on the idea of developing Creekside East, other than we're starting to look at some ways to really make it a, you know, a community asset, which understood we'd have to come back with that in time. So we took that off the table. Point number 2, community facilities. Kind of the same set of factors here. As we began to look and continue to look at ways that in time we could address the track and soccer complex with Sanford, we began to look at opportunities of how we could potentially relocate those facilities. There is no particular plan, there is no particular solution. We raised the question after talking with some city staff about the potential of doing that in conjunction with the city on the properties to the west. That is not a formal proposal. I want to be absolutely clear on this. It was an idea, and really all we're after with track and soccer is in time, to the extent that those move to allow for further development of Creekside West, and dollars have to go into those facilities, wherever they would go, how can we do that in a way that would be additive for the community overall? Not just for Sanford, but potentially for the community. But that's down the road. That's something that we'll come back to at some point in time if Creekside West is proceeding. So, to be clear, that's not on the table. There's a set of ideas there. There's different thoughts about where that could be done. Some things maybe on campus, elsewhere. That's something that we'll solve for in time. But there is nothing, you know, that's formally on the table with respect to the city of Homewood. Third point is height of the hotel. We spent a lot of time on that. We're certainly open to ways to reduce the height of the hotel at the will of the city, if that's something that would make a difference in advancing Creekside West. We've got some thoughts on how we could accommodate that. And the fourth point, which is probably the discussion that we've been having the most lately, is, you know, this notion that it's too big for Homewood. And I'm not going to stand here and suggest that it's not a big project. It is a big project, certainly by Homewood standards. But I would just ask you to not overlook the fact that because this is the first instance where you've advanced a mixed-use development zoning, I believe that's a fair statement, under the new zoning category, it causes us to have to look at the project in its entirety. Right, if we did this a building at a time, as we've talked about, you would end up over time, you know, accumulating to the same size of project that we're contemplating today. It's just when you take it all in one, you know, sort of application, it just causes us to think about the project being of a scale that it is and put it in perspective. You know, we're looking at something that could be $700–800 million of development over time. We're about to finish almost $300 of development on campus right now. That's been done over the last 18 months. So in scale, these are big numbers. I mean, wouldn't have been that many years ago. What's $700–800 million today would have been about $300–400 million. So the numbers are big. But that's just the point that we want to try and be clear on is when you take this in its entirety, and you think of that program all, you know, coming together over a period of time in phases, and you accumulate what the value is of that, it is a big number. And I'm not in any way suggesting it's not a big project, but we don't feel it's out of scale with the nature and type of development that's occurring on campus, or the type of development that's occurred along the whole Lakeshore Drive corridor. And then that translates into the fiscal impacts. I mean, one of the things that to us really has stood out with this project is it does drive a significant fiscal impact to the city and the school district. And to us, that's one of the, kind of the four key pillars of the project in terms of how it can really support quality of life in Homewood. Is a significant driver of tax base, and with that, a significant driver of tax base to city schools. And knowing that you have, you know, the looming realities of building and maintaining schools, which, you know, it's no different there. The costs are just hard to even imagine. See this as a vehicle that could significantly support strengthening quality of education in Homewood. So there's a lot more we can discuss there. Just wanted to touch on these quick factors, and happy to open it up and answer any questions.
Good job on time. Okay, I'm going to I've got a couple people have identified to speak. Lant is one of them.
Lance.
Yeah. Okay, you
ready?
Yes, if you'll come up, if you will give your name and address, so Bo can see you sign in, and.
My name is Lant Davis. I reside at 140 University Park Drive. That's in the Brookdale development. And I appreciate the opportunity to come here and address the committee about this huge development that will be in our backyard. First, I want to make sure that all of you have a copy of the petition that our homeowners association have signed, and is it in the public record?
I have, yes.
And it is in the public record?
Yes, sir. Yes, yes.
Okay, all right. So I won't go back through every point that I made in the petition. I just quickly note the construction traffic for, I thought 8 years, I just heard maybe 10 years. And that's at a time when probably 3 to 8 times a day the fire and rescue comes from Homewood to Brookdale to answer an emergency call. And I think a lot of our folks are concerned that it might be difficult for them to get through if there is an 18-wheeler across the bridge. Then after the thing is built, we have the ongoing traffic on Lake Shore. Landmark says they may come up with some plan for additional lanes, but that's very much unspecified. And even with the additional lanes, they admit that this project is going to increase the amount of traffic on Lake Shore, which is already over, I think, over what Lake Shore was built to accommodate. Anybody who has been on Lake Shore Drive between 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock in the evening can attest to that. Flooding is a major issue. As I pointed out in our petition, our homes, our 48 garden homes, and what we call the big house, and the nursing home are all built on a raised earthen platform. That's why we're not in the flood zone. But I can tell you, my back door faces the walking trail, and after huge rains, I have gone out and I have seen the water within feet of the top of that building platform. So I'm very concerned about what happens if more stormwater drainage goes into Shades Creek. And I've seen and heard absolutely no details about how that is going to be handled. Sanitary sewage. I don't know why this is, but so often when there's a heavy rain, when you walk along the trail, especially right in front of Brookdale and then again down closer to Columbiana Road, there's a fetid septic smell. And you can see that somebody, I assume it's the County Department of Public Health, has come out and spread lime around. And so it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that that sewage system is already at capacity or beyond. So what will happen when all of these additional toilets and lavatories and everything else from the 500 housing units and the hotel all go into the sewage system. Again, no details from Landmark or Sanford about how any of that is going to be handled. We've talked about the wildlife. I appreciate that the DAG has worked to try to save the salamanders. But there's lots of other wildlife out there as well. And frankly, I'm a little perplexed. What is Sanford going to do with their championship soccer team when Sanford bulldozes the soccer field and the track development and puts up housing there? They wanted to go to the Homewood soccer park. That's what we heard. And already there's been a lot of public pushback on that. So where are they going to send their soccer team? I think there's something that we're not hearing. Something's not coming out yet. Looks to me like that's a problem that has to be solved before this development can be believable. I just don't see Sanford eliminating those athletic fields in order to have this new commercial development. The aesthetics are very important to me, and that is, as you walk along the trail, it feels like a wooded area. It's nice to ride your bicycle, to walk your dog, jog, and I can tell you that there are hundreds, if not thousands of people every day before dawn and after dark on that trail. It's an important community resource for Homewood. And I just imagine now walking down the trail and looking at the backside of a 150-story hotel. It's just going to change the character of that property. Okay, so those are our objections, and even if the salamanders have been saved, that's just one piece of what we don't like about what they're proposing. So we are still opposed to the project, notwithstanding that change. I don't know whether Homewood has the power legally to actually stop this project. Our friend from Chicago has made the statement in public hearings that really they already have all the authority and rights that they need to do this except for the height of the hotel. He implied to the group that if they would reduce the height of the hotel, they could do all this even though they won't, without any change in zoning. I'll leave it to you all to decide whether that's the case. What we would like is for Homewood, for our government, our elected representatives, to stop this. Stop it. If you don't stop it, then you need to address the sequencing. Because the way it has come up, you're being asked to approve the development plan, which has all these buildings that you saw on there, all the things that Sanford and Landmark want. But the development plan doesn't include any of the protective, ameliorative investments that will be necessary to lessen the damage that all of these buildings are going to do. So that's why our petition makes the additional point that if you feel like for whatever reason you have to go forward with this, please figure out a way to retain jurisdiction over the project so that you haven't signed all of your approval rights away at this point, leaving everyone to the mercies of Sanford and Landmark about how much they're willing to do to ameliorate the harm that their project will cause. Thank you very much.
John Manzoni or John.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, sir. My name is John Manzelli. I live at 500 Lakeshore Drive. I am directly across the street from this development. I know I've emailed everyone. I apologize for the excessive emails. But my opposition to this is not just personal. It's about the entire community. I'm going to relay echo a number of points. I have 4 key questions in opposition. 1, is there public support and trust for this? 2, is this project viable? 3, does the benefits of this project outweigh the harm? And 4, does Homewood really need this? In terms of public support and trust, I speak for 307 Homewood residents who've signed an online petition for change.org. Apparently there's another petition out. I have no idea how many more people would sign petitions at this point. From the start, Sanford has pushed this through zoning as fast as possible. They have not built public trust no matter what they say in these meetings. The most glaring example of this is when they pulled a PR nightmare by claiming to have worked with the city on a plan to repurpose Homewood soccer and save the salamanders. The next day, our own little soccer club had to come out and actually oppose them in an email. That is the public trust that we're working under right now. That's what the public thinks of this plan. They have not been good actors in this process. Secondly, is this project viable? I have questions because I don't know the answer. Has there been an independent environmental impact study done? To the gentleman's point, do you know how this affects the creek, the wildlife, the salamander habitat, or the runoff? Has there been an independent traffic study done that actually supports placing 1,000 residents and a 150-room hotel on a parcel of land surrounded by 3 sides with no access? You only have Lakeshore Drive. You have soccer fields on one side, you have South Lakeshore on the other side, and you have a high school that you desperately don't want people to try to get out of this complex by whipping around. Is there a real business plan for this? We're talking about a $700 million project. Sanford does not run this kind of project. It's a university. And finally, in terms of this hotel, is there a partnership agreement in place with a hotel vendor? Is there a hotelier on record that actually says there's a demand for a 10-story hotel? You cannot wait to figure these things out later. You have to know the answers now. So the question becomes, how does this affect us? Lakeshore Drive, it's obvious, the traffic on Lakeshore Drive. Potential environmental damage, we already talked about. Neighborhood integrity. This place is the tallest building in Homewood, adjacent to our schools and our recreation. It changes the skyline of Lakeshore Drive. It fundamentally changes the character of the city. And it creates high-density housing, commercial zones, and traffic in an area not designed to carry that burden. You have 2 areas on Lakeshore Drive designed to carry commercial burden, and they're next to highways. That's why they're zoned that way. Brookwood needs to be dealt with. It is right now a zombie apocalypse movie set that has to be dealt with, but it's in the right place. It's next to a highway. The other side of Lakeshore Drive has commercial property that's sitting there, readily available, that needs to be developed. It's next to a highway. Homewood does not need this project in the middle of its town. Sanford needs the project, and I understand. Homewood does not need this project. And the other reason and I'll leave it at this, the only reason to do this is financial benefit. That's it. But I question how much the financial benefit is going to be to the city and whether we're going to offset the money we bring in from this by the money we're taking away from other commercial venues in our town. For example, Homewood, Sanford, which I'm sure they're super smart people, they're going to force all of their residents, their students, to live in this new housing unit. How else would they fill it? What that will mean is all the rental properties you have in Homewood that rent to Sanford students will dry up. They will lose all that. So you're basically you're robbing from Paul to pay Peter. Lastly, this puts pressure on the rest of your town. You have a gorgeous downtown. That's why I moved here. I moved here from Miami 6 years ago because I haven't seen cities that have this kind of downtown on our size. You are letting them compete directly against your own town. And you're going to consider giving them a tax abatement in order to fight your own hotels. That's what they're going to do. It's a brilliant plan. Take the tax abatement, use that money to leverage and beat the opposition and the hotels who exist in your town, run them out of business, force everything to you, and then somehow we're going to sit here and say, look how much they did for us. But all the money's going to come from one place. Don't risk your downtown. Don't risk the rest of your community. Don't risk the neighbors who've invested in this town and the neighborhood. Well, that's all I really have to say. I apologize, I'm not a public speaker. I'm not a lawyer. I would rather be home with my kid playing baseball in the backyard because that's why I moved to this town. But I felt the need to come here and address this, and I thank you for your time. Thank you.
So again, a reminder for everybody else, on June the 9th, open, wide open, anybody who wants to speak is welcome to come and speak. And so tonight, a couple of folks, a representative of the folks that put the petition together, that's who I invited to speak to sort of give the other side of the story. So now I'm gonna take 5 minutes or so to let the council or committee, anybody have any questions that they wanna ask? And then after we finish that, we're gonna move this out without recommendation, pending the public hearing on June the 9th. So committee / council, anything you all wanna add or ask?
I just have one thing.
Well,
I know I've heard Sanford come a couple times now and say we've met with this group, we've had this ad hoc committee, we're talking to these people. Unfortunately, I haven't heard from any of those people, just to be clear. I don't know that anybody here has.
I've spoken with.
I have not heard from anybody personally that is in favor of this.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were saying.
I have
Sorry,
received
I'm sorry,
hundreds of
sorry.
emails
No.
probably at this point opposing it, in addition to, individual correspondence, just walking into people around town, texting, calling, however else people reach out. I have yet to hear from one individual that is in favor. So I just, if you are leveraging that we are talking to these people and getting buy-in to the point of several tonight, and community involvement and engagement, you're missing the mark in terms of hitting the people you need to hit. Because I'm not hearing it. I already spoke about the soccer stuff. I've coached 2 of my kids' teams. I had to field that. That's one of my biggest pet peeves, is having to field city business when I'm trying to enjoy my family time. And
You signed up for.
Exactly.
not in that format. So I just want to make that clear that I have not heard anything. So if that really is the case, I think you should probably try to get those people to speak out and to correspond with us, because I personally have not heard from anybody in support.
And I thought you were saying you had not talked to anyone on the DAG, and I have.
No,
That's what
sorry.
I thought you were
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
I have not. I have heard from one person very early on that was in favor, but other than that, I have not.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to?
Just a question about the DAG, and Bob, you did reference consideration of potentially reducing the height of the hotel. Obviously, that's been a discussion point in some of the concerns this evening. Is there anything further than from what you shared in your intro in regards to the height of the hotel and what alternatives are currently in consideration?
Yeah, some of the work we've been doing, over the last weeks is we've been discussing this issue is lowering the height of the hotel so it certainly does not exceed the height of buildings on the Lakeshore Drive corridor, which would bring it from what's been described, not by us, but, varying opinions on how high 150 feet could be. Some have said that could be a 15-story hotel. I think if you looked along Lakeshore Drive, it would limit the height of the hotel to, let's say, 9 stories, maybe 10 stories, something in that general range.
And I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Just real quick then too, Mayor Wyatt mentioned kind of as the intro to this about the financial ask of this. With everything in consideration, my understanding, and I just want to make sure so everybody, if the financial infrastructure support is not there, then is this project still viable?
Don't believe so.
Okay.
Councilor Walton?
I just wanted to clarify, largely for the public in the room that may not have heard, tell us a little bit more about the makeup of the apartments, what the intended use is going to be, how many, and how viable that is with or without the bridge crossing over.
So I'll come to the bridge secondly, but the approach to the housing is what we've defined as Sanford affiliate housing. What is Sanford affiliate housing? Number one, we would anticipate that would include senior, meaning 55 and over. It would include owner-occupied housing, And then under the more broad definition of Sanford affiliate, it would include the ability to market to residents who would have a direct tie to programs aligned with Sanford University, which means it could include students, but not undergraduate, likely to be graduate students, law school students, what have you, faculty, staff, that would all have the same benefit of programs that they would pay for as part of their residency in those housing units. So we have to be careful. There are legal requirements that we have to meet. So that's what we're being careful to define, so that anything that we do there meets the standards of FHA and what have you.
Okay. And roughly how many units are you thinking?
If I'm 435.
135. And you have adequate parking on site for those?
Yes.
Okay, so what's gonna happen next is, someone on the committee is gonna make a recommendation to send this out without recommendation pending the public hearing on June the 9th. So when you hear a 5-0 yes vote, that vote is sending this out without recommendation to the full council on June the 9th. So no one's voting in favor or
Pending the
against.
public hearing.
Pending the public hearing. So you may have communicated with us, and we may have replied and said, thank you for your email. We appreciate hearing from you. We can't give our opinion of a project until we hear it at a public hearing. I am on the planning commission, so it's a little different. I've already voted on this project. I voted no for both development plans, but the rest of the city council is waiting to hear at the public hearing. So I just want everyone to know, procedure is sometimes gets tricky. It's fun. It's complicated. I love it. But just so that everyone understands tonight, when you hear a 5-0 vote, that is sending it out without recommendation, pending that public hearing again on June the 9th. I would ask everybody to come. Anyone who wants to speak, you will be there, welcome to speak. So, okay, go ahead.
I don't want to jump in
Yep,
front
go
of
ahead.
You can go first. I just had one more procedural thing. So
Okay.
Just from the soccer field perspective, I would like there to be a verbal acknowledgement that that's off the table, personally.
Yeah.
Our soccer fields.
Yeah, I
'Cause
mean,
the reason being,
there is nothing in place
just,
or
I agree,
proposed that would.
but I want to hear that from them. And the reason being is because we have a large number of families that are busy, school's getting out, we're ending up soccer season, that are constantly having to keep up with this because they're concerned about the issue. And I hear it nonstop. And like Councilor Wolverton, I would like to give them, some sense of peace and security that is not on the table.
Look, this is obviously y'all's decision, but I would agree with what everyone has said. I don't think anyone's received anything positive about the idea of using the soccer fields, and they are the city soccer fields. So that can't be done without the city's approval, and I have yet to hear anything that would indicate that the city's going to give approval for that. What I did hear tonight was that that Landmark and Sanford are exploring other options that don't involve city land. And that's up to them if they do that. But yeah, I don't foresee that there is anything that would come from the city based on what I have heard from counselors and what I have heard from the public. I mean, again, that's y'all's vote. So, but I don't foresee that at all. I don't know what else I can say beyond that, but.
Yeah, was it?
Okay, just making sure.
Well, I'm really trying to put this in the mail.
I'm sorry.
Wait, Alex, did you have more?
Well, you can go first. Mine's really just a cleanup thing.
Just kind of related to this conversation, I mean, Bob, can you confirm that there's currently no plans to use Homewood soccer field? You did this last time as well, but could you just?
Thought I opened there, but let me just say it one more time to be absolutely clear. There is no proposal. Not now. We don't foresee anything on the horizon. There is no proposal for use of the city soccer fields, period.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
Is there anything more I can say to clarify this issue?
All right, Councilor Nels.
Mine is really for Bob as well. I'm Jalete Nelms. I'm the Ward 4 counselor. I'm also the liaison for Sanford.
Yes.
And I haven't met with any of you guys. I have met with Dr. Taylor and with Jeff, along with Nick Sims. But when that came up in the media, I was bombarded with calls. Yet, I was not even like remotely aware of any of it. And I serve as the liaison for Sanford.
Well, apologize for any confusion that's been created and want to be absolutely clear. What we were suggesting and will continue to look for is opportunities that with track, with soccer, if we're going to invest in facilities, that it's done in a way that can have broader benefit to the community wherever that should occur beyond just use by Sanford. That was the sole point that we've tried to, took on a bit of a life of its own. Didn't intend that, but just to be clear, that was the sole purpose of our beginning to look at alternatives of how we could build community assets that would have a benefit beyond just Sanford University.
Mayor?
One last procedural point, to build on what you said, Councilor Andrus, which is, I think is correct, which is we have to have a public hearing on this, and by law, the council has to wait and have that public hearing before anything happens. That's set for June 9th. The incentive package will have to go through a similar process, so just, and I know this gets into the weeds, so I apologize, but I want to make sure that everyone understands. We're sending, or my understanding is the committee is sending out this item without recommendation pending the public hearing. The incentives will trail that, and there's a reason it trails that, is because you can't consider incentives until you know that there's a plan that's been approved. In other words, you have to know what you're giving incentives for. So that's why that will trail that. So there still will be an item in finance about this to continue to consider those incentives in general. But as I said at the beginning, I think it's important that everyone knows what the incentives are, because these are different. I shouldn't say they're different. They're larger and a longer time period than Homewood's ever considered for anything else. And so that has to be part of how everyone talks and considers the project as a whole, because as Bob said, in their mind, this is essential. So I want everyone to be considering the size and scope of those in addition to the development, but the two items have to move through separately.
But, Mr. Mayor, can I say one thing?
Sure.
Can I say one thing?
It's up
So you
to
have
her.
to-
It's up to her.
I'm the committee chair, so if you will sign in and give your address and
How do you
just.
sign in?
Oh, he's got
Mr.
this.
Seeger's doing that for you, so.
It's Becky Smith, 125 University Park Drive. This is a sort of a positive. I want you to know, I went to a fabulous Sanford track meet over there at Sanford this weekend, right next door to us. And it was wonderful. And they had, I don't know how many schools they were, but there were lots and lots of schools around for the Southern Conference track meet. There were people staying everywhere, parking everywhere, meeting everywhere, eating everywhere. And my granddaughter came in second in the 10K.
Oh my
I
gosh.
can't imagine running around that many times. But y'all, it was
That's
so.
a big deal.
It was big,
That's a big deal.
And she ended up tying with another girl for the Student Athlete Award for the
That's
Southern
amazing.
Conference. Now, that wasn't why I told you, but I
That's okay.
wanted to
That's
tell you
beautiful.
because this event was so much fun, so good. And I can't fathom how you could have that with these buildings there. I mean, you'd have to figure out another place to do that because they used every single bit of the land that was there. I couldn't even get my car parked over there. Fortunately, we could I got dropped off. I should have walked, but I got dropped off. But anyway, I just wanted to say it was a fabulous, fabulous Homewood event with so many people enjoying it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All
Yeah,
right,
I just
last
want,
thing
you
from-
keep making comments about anybody can speak on June the 9th,
Yeah.
and that's true.
Okay.
But what I want to put out as a
As the
public service
president,
message.
he will be facilitating the public
What I'd like
hearing.
to say is like, John, I appreciate you saying, you've got 307. If you can be the spokesman for those 307 people, that would be fantastic. Lance, if you can be the spokesman for all of your residents, it'll really help us. I mean, we literally could be there till midnight. So if we can, I think we kind of understand where we are, but if we can kind of consolidate that and not repeat, that'll make the night an enjoyable evening, but I'm sure we'll be late.
I just want everyone to know that their input is welcome.
Their input is welcome.
Yes.
I'm just saying, I really appreciate the speaking for 307 people rather than,
Okay, with that,
Thank you.
I am ready. Mr. Kendrick, can I move all 4 of these out with one
Yeah, as long as you
motion?
understand that, as we talked before, the zoning and the final development plans will be in the same ordinance.
Yes.
Because you can't have one without the other.
Can we move all 4 out with one motion?
Sure.
Make
Okay.
a motion to send out without recommendation
Second that.
pending the public hearing.
All right. All right, and that's for all 4 motions?
Yes,
Okay.
for all 4 items.
Okay, so that motion came from Counselor Sims with a second from Counselor Wolverton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, those have moved out officially. Wow, that is a big deal. That's a really big deal. Okay. I know it. All right, new business. Request for consideration of an amended development plan for property at 800 Lakeshore Drive for Sanford's proposed Bulldog District to permit construction of 2 separate residential villages together. Planning Commission, we heard this back at the beginning of May and had a 6-0 vote for a favorable recommendation. I would entertain a motion to set the public hearing, and we will leave this in committee to hear at a later date.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion is from Counselor Nelms with a second from Counselor Gwaltney. That will be for, that public hearing will be for June the 23rd. Thank you. Is that part of your motion, Counselor Nelms?
Sure,
Okay,
yes.
and your second?
Yeah,
Okay, so
second.
that is gonna be for June 23rd. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And that passes 5-0. Without objection, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Okay, not terrible. 21, not bad, 21 minutes.